Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. With me, as always, is the incomparable, immeasurable producer and co-host extraordinaire, Zach Goodman. Today's episode of the Bat Around is brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. What are you waiting for, Zach? Go buy a Highlander.
I'm going to go buy one right after the show.
How are you, man?
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm great. I am great.
I can tell you came in and you're in a really good mood. I can tell.
It was hot as hell yesterday.
I know.
I took the pup out at about 8:30 for a morning poop and pee before he ate breakfast.
Okay.
And I wanted to die. The second I walked outside, I got hit by a wall of Satan's breath.
Wow, that's one way to put it.
It was so damn hot. And Bruce was looking up at me like, why are we out here? I'm like, go pee. He peed immediately. He's like, can we go back in? I was like, yeah, we can go back in. It was ungodly hot. Today, different story. It is pleasant. There's a nice breeze. It's about 70 degrees. It's going to be a high of 75 today, perfectly sunny. Same thing tomorrow when I take the beautiful wife to the Orioles game. Beautiful weather. The Orioles are playing winning baseball. What's not to be happy about? It is hot as balls in this studio.
I'm cold. I'm cold right now. I'm always cold rather than hot.
You gotta get some meat on your bones.
I know. That's
it's
prevalent issue.
It's hot in here. It is, as Nelly said, it's getting hot here. So take off all your keep your clothes on.
I'm gonna.
You're cold, so put on.
You can make your own decisions over there. But
you're cold and you're wearing a North Face shirt.
I am, but that has nothing to do with the.
I don't know what that means. Maybe it's the icy cool blue.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
What the hell's going on here, guys? Welcome. This is the Bat Around. Great show coming up here for you today. The Orioles, an impressive 1-0 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays last night. Getting great defense. Dean Kramer looking the best he's ever looked for the Orioles. He goes 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 5 Ks, no runs. ERA drops to 2.35 in 3 starts this season. Excuse me. Guys, I lost my voice on the drive over here for no good reason. I wasn't...
Too much Metallica,
Zach
apparently
asked me if I was scream singing. No, my voice was perfectly normal when I left the house. I got here. Maybe it's that fresh Baltimore air. I don't know.
That's what it is, yeah. That's what it is. But your body was just shocked about the temperature change. That's what it is.
I think I may have just finally cleared it, but it still doesn't sound the same. But anyway, Dean Kramer, ERA drops to 2.35. In 3 starts, he's got 15 in the third innings pitched, 14 hits, 4 walks, 10 Ks, 4 earned runs, and a 1.17 whip. Adley freaking Rutschman. The savior, the king, the messiah has arrived. 2 of the Orioles' 5 hits last night, including the go-ahead RBI single in the 7th inning. In his last 8 games, he has played the last 8 days. 10 for 29, 5 doubles, a home run, 4 RBIs. Even his outs have been loud. He has finally, Zachary, gotten it going for the Orioles.
Yeah.
With him and Ryan Mountcastle tearing the cover off the ball and the stellar performances you're already getting from Hayes and Mancini. Mullins seems like he's turning it around. This team's kind of off and running a little bit right now. The pitching still leaves a lot to be desired, but look, they've gotten back-to-back quality starts from Tyler Wells and Dean Kramer. And let's talk about the latter there for a minute. Dean Kramer, this is the best he's ever looked in an Orioles uniform. It seems to me the key, Zach, has been simply throwing strikes and pitching with that confidence. That confidence to know that, hey, I can get these guys out.
I think definitely a few more quality strikes in the 2 outings that I've seen so far. The cutter was really a big issue for him last year, and just locating that, and he would leave it over the middle of the plate. And when you throw a bad cutter, it's simply like a fastball that's right down the middle that doesn't really break too much. You're not getting much on it. and it's a very hittable pitch. The cutter, if you don't throw it well, can become maybe the most hittable pitch in baseball. And Dean Kramer really struggled to command it last year and really struggled to even get a lot of break on it. It just didn't look good. This year, the cutter looks excellent. I mean, it looks completely like it was in spring training, I believe, of 21. I want to say that's when he started trying it out and working on it a little bit more. And it's starting to look a little better. And it's not hanging up as much. It's breaking more. And guys are swinging and missing on it, which is obviously the goal. So he definitely looks better in that regard. And when you have lefty hitters and you come at him with a cutter and run him inside on the hands, that's exactly what you want to do if you're Dean Kramer, and that's what he's been doing. The 12-6 hasn't looked quite as good as it did in 2020 when he originally came up, but it still looks better than it did last year by far. Fastball looks a little less hittable, throwing it for more quality strikes. I think quality strikes is the big thing for Dean Kramer, and I said that last show that if he can just do that over and over consistently, he's going to be much better than he was in 2021, and I think we're already seeing the result of that.
Well, and then you look at his 3 starts, and his first start coming off the rehab stint, he got what should have been called strike 3 to end the first inning, and instead it was called ball 4, and the next guy hits a 3-run homer. Now look, you can't give up the 3-run homer. But that was the only walk he allowed the entire game. He gave up nothing the rest of the way. Ended up going 4 1/3 innings that day. Then his next start, he goes 5 innings of 1-run ball. And then last night, 6 innings of shutout ball. He's getting better every time out and pitching with more confidence. And I think as much as throwing quality strikes, confidence is important.
Oh, yeah,
believing that you can get this done, because you've seen time and time again, you've seen it with Dean Kramer early on in his career, where he's getting hit around, and he's like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
You know, now he's going out there, and I'm not going to say dominating, but he's getting the job done. And it's really nice to see. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about Tyler Wells, because Tyler Wells has been the most consistent starter on this team.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, he's the guy with the innings limit. He's the guy where, like, he's going to go 3 innings, 4 innings, maybe occasionally 5. He's gone 6 innings 4 times now.
Yeah.
He's got, what is it, a 3.5 ERA?
Might be a little higher than that, but I think it's around
It was
there. I'll check on that.
It was 3.78 going into the last game, and he went 6 innings of, what was it, 1-run ball in that game. So for me, Tyler Wells has been better than advertised. It's
3.62 is the number of now, which is great.
Yeah, it's near 3.5. And the one thing that concerns me is the strikeout totals are very low.
Yeah, which has been him through his whole career. So I wouldn't say...
Well, he struck out more than 10 batters per game per 9 innings last year.
But in a completely different role.
Right, in a completely different role as a reliever. I look back at Jim Johnson, and even as a reliever, he didn't have high strikeout rates. I think he topped out like 6.5 per 9, right? And he was dominant for a time, and then the league figured him out and started hitting him, right? Because if you're not a strikeout pitcher and you're pitching to contact, then you got to get a lot of weak contact, and eventually teams are going to start hitting you if you pitch to contact, in my humble opinion. So I look at Tyler Wells. Is he pitching to too much contact?
Yeah, I mean, that could certainly be a question. He doesn't walk many guys, which is obviously one of the big things that Tyler Wells excels in. So I don't necessarily care that the strikeouts are not that high, but I was looking back at his minor league numbers from 18, 17, and 16 with Minnesota, and you're correct. I mean, he was up in the 9s and 10s, which is significantly better than where he is. I think a lot of it, like I said, is based on the role change, because he did relieve in a lot of those outings for Minnesota as well. So maybe just the role change and being a full-time starter.
He was mostly a starter.
He was mostly a starter, but he had quite a few games in relief as well. He started most of the games, but just not all. So I think maybe that skews the numbers a little bit as well. But I think when you go from reliever to a starter, you're automatically going to take your strikeout totals down, your Ks per 9. But, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily pitching to too much contact, and the Orioles' defense has been really good, as you mentioned earlier in the show. So that's maybe helped him out a little bit. His FIP is quite a bit higher. It's almost a run higher than his ERA. So there's definitely some concerns there that maybe the defense is helping him out, and maybe he is pitching to a little bit too much contact. But I almost think with the success he's had and the whip, basically at 1,073 right now, you really can't complain about what he's done. Like, maybe he's pitching to too much contact, but it's not showing up too much in the numbers. They're looking good. So
yeah, look, the Orioles need as much help as they can get in the starting rotation, because you look at Kyle Bradish, who hit 2 of his first 3 starts. He was fantastic, and he hasn't been able to replicate either of those performances since. And the stuff is too good. He's having a little bit of a Dean Kramer syndrome.
Yeah.
Where he's struggling to throw strikes consistently, but he's got to get out there. And you would have thought that maybe it's hard to say turn a corner in your third career start, but maybe that would have been a jumping off point for him. That 7 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 11 strikeout, no walk performance against the St. Louis Cardinals, a good baseball team. You would think that maybe that would be a springboard for him, and it's kind of been the opposite. He hasn't been as good since then. And you start to wonder, especially when we just saw Bruce Zimmerman get sent down. And we're going to get to Bruce Zimmerman here in just a second. But how long is Kyle Bradish's leash at this point?
I certainly think it's longer than a good number of guys on this team, just because he is Kyle Bradish. The stuff is really good. I mean, you look at the slider, and if you were to put a number on it on the 20 to 80 scale, it's probably like a 60, 65. I mean, the slider is well above average, and it's just the command that he's really got to improve with the slider. He just doesn't throw it for strikes that consistently. And when you're getting guys to swing at it, that's great. But a lot of times you're going to want to hit that outside corner to righties and try to land it in there, and that's just been the struggle for him. It's just to get that outside corner. A lot of times it's been running away too far. So command on the slider is where he's really got to improve. I think that's been the biggest issue. But I also thought his mechanics looked a little bit off in a few of the recent outings compared to what he was doing in the first 2 and 3. So maybe it's a mechanical thing, but maybe it's also just that he can't locate the slider at the moment. And if he starts doing that, the 95 fastball will start to play even better too, because then guys don't know what's coming. They don't know which one he's going to throw for strikes. I think that makes him a lot more consistent and effective if you can just land the slider in the outside corner as opposed to trying to get guys to swing at it by throwing it too far out of the zone. So if he starts doing that, I think Bradish is going to be, turn from where he is now into a 2 or 3 times better pitcher than what he is.
Yeah, he's going to get ample opportunity to figure it out at the big league level.
Definitely. His leash is long.
And it's longer than Bruce Zimmerman because the stuff's better.
Right. And he's a legitimate prospect. Like there were people in the Orioles organization it was written about that liked him as much as DL Hall. I mean, there are guys that really think highly of him.
Right. Now, speaking of DL Hall, his last outing, only 4 1/3 innings pitched, but 11 strikeouts.
Yeah.
89 pitches.
That's the concern.
Well, but you can also look at it from the standpoint of he threw 89 pitches, right? It's not that, he threw 89 pitches and only 4 1/3 or 4 2/3 innings pitched, but he threw 89 pitches. And he struck out at 11. I have to imagine, I know the 11 strikeouts are a career high. I have to imagine that 89 pitches is approaching a career high for him.
Sounds right.
Now, the most innings he's ever thrown in a season is 94 1/3. Rich Dubroff from BaltimoreBaseball.com is going to be on the show at 11 o'clock today. He wrote an article recently where he's speculating that there's nobody more deserving to take Bruce Zimmerman's spot in the rotation right now than DL Hall. And though the Orioles don't need a starter till a fifth starter till next Saturday, he doesn't think the Orioles are going to are going to negate, or what's the word I'm looking for here? He doesn't think that the Orioles are going to not use a fifth starter. He thinks that there's a good chance that they could call up, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm not going to say good chance, but he's speculating that they could call up Dean Kramer for the start.
Or DL Hall.
DL Hall for the start on Tuesday. And he was saying he's at 38 innings pitched right now, and if he were to get 5 inning starts the rest of the year with the Orioles, it would put him about 65 to 70 innings at the big league level and a little over 100 for the season, which is about, I would think, where the Orioles want him, right?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think that, is about where he should be. I mean, you said 94 is the top in his career, so you add maybe, 15 onto that, and you call it a day, or call it a year, I should say. 110 innings, that makes sense. I think that's about right.
Is he the guy that you think is going to make the start on Tuesday?
I do not.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I feel it will be a placeholder, and DL Hall ends up making his debut in the middle of July. That's kind of where I feel. I think the Orioles might view, 89 pitches and only 4 1/3 inning pitched. Like the efficiency is just not good enough at the moment for Hall, even though he's striking out a ton of guys and not giving up a lot of runs and not giving up a lot of hits either. It's just that the pitch efficiency isn't where they want it to be. So that would be my guess, but I don't know. He could be the guy. I hope he's the guy. I mean, that would be excellent.
People were speculating, well, maybe it'll be Spencer Watkins, but he started last night, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So then you have DL Hall and Mike Baumann. And Mike Baumann, they've been using strictly as a reliever this year. They're not just going to suddenly throw him into the rotation and take him completely off of his routine.
Unless they want to do a piggyback thing with Aiken or something. That would
right,
be the only...
but it's still going to take him off of his routine because then he's preparing for the game like he's a starter instead of being in that bullpen role. But I also think it's telling that they haven't used him since having him in the 2 or 3 days he's been up. So
yeah, that is definitely telling. I mean, if you throw the guy out there for 2 innings, it's not, I guess, too much different of a dynamic for him than it is coming in out of the pen. So we'll see if he does. I mean, again, I'd love it to be DL Hall. I mean, that would be incredible, and I'd be happy to see that. I just think that it almost makes too much sense for them to do a piggyback thing with Ballman.
Yeah, but we'll see how that goes. Now, if Ballman pitches today or tomorrow, then that's probably not going to be the case on Tuesday. Now, the guy that we're talking about them replacing is Bruce Zimmerman, and on the roster, Ballman has replaced Bruce Zimmerman, and man, it went from really good to really bad really fast. 4 earned runs or more in 6 consecutive starts. In those 6 starts, 30 and a third innings pitched, 33 earned runs, 15 home runs allowed, a 9.79 ERA. And now it's a point where you're not just wondering if they can fix him, if he can fix him. You're wondering, is this kind of more what he is? And the beginning of the year was more the outlier, and he is not really a big league pitcher.
Yeah, that could certainly be the case. I know that Chris Holt worked with him hard on, getting that fastball changeup combo that kind of has driven John Means' career so far. And that seemed like what would work for him. He came out and it looked really good at the beginning of the year. And I think everyone got excited because you see a guy doing basically what John Means was doing from the same side, the left side, and being effective with it, with a fastball changeup combo, and you get excited about that. But what he's done since then is lose command of the changeup and lose command of the fastball. And that's something that never happened to John Means. John Means retained all of that command for the most part, and that's why John Means is having the success that he had and it has had such a great career up to this point. Bruce Zimmerman lost the command. He just doesn't have it anymore. He was throwing down and away. The changeup was breaking hard, some arm side fade on it. It looked good. And now there's just none of that there. And he's leaving the changeup, right over the middle of the plate, and it's just batting practice for a lot of these hitters at the moment. And, he's facing the AL East. It's one of the toughest places to play, and there's a lot of good hitters that are going to watch film on you, and maybe the film watching that a lot of these players have done have caught them up to the fastball changeup combo, and they just sit on it now. And, I mean, especially the fastball, I think, is really getting sit on. Like, these guys, especially the Kansas City Royals game from a few weeks ago in Kansas City when Zimmerman pitched.
That wasn't a few weeks ago. That was last week.
That was last week. But Salvador Perez specifically was really, you could tell he knew what was coming, every time. I mean, he was on every pitch Zimmerman threw, and I just thought at the moment, I was like, yeah, this is not working. The command isn't there, and something's got to change at this point. So hopefully he figures it out.
I do appreciate the fact that the Orioles didn't say, well, this is a lost season. Let's just hope he figures it out. That they sent him down. Because any team that has a pitcher that's pitching that poorly for that long of a period, they're doing something about it. And they actually sent him down, which I was actually surprised. I was surprised to see him get sent down after his last start because the Orioles teams in the past wouldn't do that. And that brings me to my next point, that the Orioles just came off an 8-game road trip where they went 4-4. And it's especially impressive when you consider the fact that they lost the first 2 games of the Kansas City series. And then they got walloped by Toronto in the first game and in the third game. And yet they still managed to split both of those series. After last night's win, they're 23-23 in their last 46 games, which is more than a quarter of the season playing 500 ball. More than a quarter of the season playing 500 ball, Zach. Mm-hmm. Is this team legitimate? Let me ask you this. Let me phrase it this way. Say that the Orioles
mm-hmm.
end the season 8 games below 500, 77-85.
Okay.
That would mean that they went 71-71 since they were 6-14 through 20 games. Do you consider that ball club a 500 team and worth an expenditure to get them over the hump a little bit?
No, I wouldn't. I I don't think I saw some people talking about what the Orioles are going to do at the trade deadline in a few weeks, or not in a few weeks, but in a month and a half. And some people are, I think, getting a little overzealous about what they might possibly do. And I think that's the same case here, where you can't take what the Orioles have done, and they might. I mean, they might win 77 games, and fine if they do. I just don't think you can take what they've done, especially recently, and get like too excited at the moment. I don't want to crush hopes and dreams here at all. Like I don't want to be the guy to deliver the bad news. I just think that there is a certain part of the streak that may not last, and that the Orioles are maybe playing just a bit above, the where their actual talent level is now. So if they do end up going 77 wins and they're 8 games under 500. That'd be a huge success. And I mean, I think everyone would be happy about that. But I think you can't get too overzealous, especially at the trade deadline, and start making moves because you think you have a chance at getting to a wild card spot. Because frankly, they probably don't. I mean, they're 8 games out of it at this point. I hope I'm answering your question the right way. But I don't think you should get overzealous about your position.
Nobody's asking. That's a question I was going to ask you later in the show.
Okay.
Nobody's asking you right now, should the Orioles go and make a big splash at the team? Plays 500 ball from the 20-game point in the season on to the end of the year, knowing what they have coming through the pipeline.
Yeah,
is it worth an expenditure in the off season to bring in some people to maybe shore up the rotation or maybe shore up second base?
I mean, I think that's for sure. It's just how big of a spend you want to make. I mean, that's the biggest question. Like, how much money do you actually want to spend in this scenario?
And Michael Elias alluded to this. The skies, you got blue skies ahead.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
And they have roster and payroll flexibility. Right, you move that wall back for a reason. The one thing that's holding your team back right now, in my opinion, is starting pitching.
Yeah, no doubt.
The lineup has been really good since the beginning of May. The lineup has been really good. The defense has been really good. The bullpen is one of the best in baseball. And then you go to the starting rotation. And the reason that the Orioles are under 500, aside from the fact that for the first 3 weeks of the season they couldn't score more than 3 runs a game, is the fact that the starting pitching is not keeping them in ball games.
Yeah, I mean that they could certainly go out and sign a starting pitcher. I'm not sure of who the guys are that are free agents coming up this year, but I wouldn't expect them to sign like the top guy, but they may get a few of those higher mid-tier guys, because I think that's where they are at the moment. I'm just questioning how much they will spend at the moment. If you go out and win 77 games, it looks like you may be an 85 win, 88 win team at the most next year. So I think, and that's
right. But
that could be enough for a playoff spot.
If you're an 85 or an 88 win team next year. Right, you're saying, assuming they do nothing, and they just continue to progress with the guys that they have. If they win 77 games this year, they continue to progress with the guys that they have. You have Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall and Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells, and then John Means maybe in your starting rotation next year, and then potentially Gunnar, Henderson, and Jordan Westburg on the left side of your infield, and the guys that you already have in the lineup. Maybe you're an 85 to 88 win team. Well, if that's the case, then why wouldn't you go sign that one or that 7-WAR starter, that 5-WAR starter that can a 7-WAR starter is a damn. That's like signing Justin Verlander in free agency when he's 31 years old, right? But why not go and sign that starting pitcher that can get you to the 90, 92 win threshold and put you in the playoffs?
I think it's a possibility. It kind of, again, depends on where they end up this year. If they do end up, I mean, I think they'll end up in the 70s somewhere. I think that's, given the general trend of the team and the way they've been winning ball games as of late, I think that's definitely a possibility and a strong one. It's just, if you get to 77, will they feel differently than being at 70? I think there are some definite questions there of how much the Orioles will be willing to go out and spend. But like you've said all along, I mean, and this show's been a theme of it. They're going to spend when they get competitive. It's just when and on who. And I definitely think, as Michael Elias has made it kind of clear, they want to draft the bats and they want to buy the arms. So it would not surprise me if they went out and signed like a mid to high tier guy.
And what's your definition of competitive? Because they've been competitive this year.
I think competitive for a playoff spot is where, so a wild card spot. If you're in the running for a wild card spot, which I mean, I guess you could say they are, but they're 8 games out of it. So they're
8 games out of it in the middle of June.
In the middle of June,
it's not like this is the end of August. They're 8 games out of it in the middle of June. Which I was going to save this question for later, but we'll ask it now. Birdland Tonight, which is run by Matt Soroka. Josh. By Josh Soroka,
right,
of the Section 336 podcast. He asked, there's 37 games until the trade deadline. How many games would the Orioles need to win in that 37-game span to be buyers at the deadline? And I responded, I said 23 minimum. They'd have to go 23-14 because that would put them a game over 500. And even then, I don't know that they would do it.
Yeah, I think it may be more than that.
If they go 30-7,
yeah,
I think 100%.
Then yeah,
they're buyers.
Right, I would agree. I think that Mike Elias may boil a 23-14 streak down, or even 25 games or 20 or whatever it may be, to just a hot streak, and to not, I guess, go away from the plan and go away from what they've been on. And that's the biggest question is, like, do you really want to make a move right now if you don't feel like you're that close to the playoffs?
To that point, now you're looking at 20-17, 23-14, a 25-12 stretch, following a 23-23 stretch in the previous 46 games. So then you look at it and you think, okay, well, a team that's getting better, they started out 8 games below 500.
Yeah.
Then they go 23-23 in the next 46 games. We got a second. Then they go 23-17 or 23-14 in the next 37 games. That's a team moving in the right direction.
Definitely. I mean, they're trending up.
So if they're trending up, add to it. So the next trending up means now they're in a playoff. Now they're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, I think, the next step.
Look, and this is all pipe dream stuff right now because nobody's thinking that they're playing good baseball this year, and they have the entire season. They've played competitive baseball. There haven't been too many games where they're just out of it.
It's hypothetical questions that are, I guess, valid to ask at this point.
They are valid to ask because they're playing better. When you look at what they have at the top of the farm system, and we're going to talk about that later in the show today, when you look at what they have at the top of the farm system, them playing winning baseball is not as far off as people would like you to believe.
No, it's not, and they're definitely like you said. I think defining competitive is a big thing in this because is competitive that you're 2 games out of a wild card spot, or is competitive that you're having a good streak like the Orioles are right now, and you're winning more games than you were. And I think maybe it's a loose term, and that it can kind of be defined by both, or is competitive being in number 1 in your division. I mean, I think there's a good number of definitions there for that.
Right. Well. And to that point, I don't think anybody looks at the Yankees and says they're competitive. They say they're dominant. When you're in first place in your division, when you have the best record in baseball, you're not competitive. You're dominant, right? And the Orioles aren't there. The Orioles are inching closer, but I use the phrase inching closer because they're not close to being dominant. They're not close to being the best team in their division. They're not close to being the best team in baseball. But they're inching forward. And again, later in the show, we're going to talk about this in Orioles banter because the Orioles have a lot of things to be excited about going on with them right now, not just at the big league level, but in the minor league level as well. Coming up on the show in just a matter of seconds, we have Stan the Fan. Charles, we're going to do Sounding Off with Zach Goodman, a really good Sounding Off segment today. From BaltimoreBaseball.com, Rich Dubroff joins us at 11 o'clock. Payoff pitch around the league, Orioles banter, and take to rake with final thoughts to close things out. But first and foremost, joining us now on the show, the man, the myth, the legend, Stan the Fan. Charles, good morning to you, Stan. How are you today?
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. You sound a lot better. It sounds like you're feeling better.
These allergies are still wreaking havoc with me.
Yeah, it's that time of year, man.
Yeah.
You and me both. So, Stan, Dean Kramer, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 Ks, one strikeout. I'm sorry, 1 run allowed, no runs allowed yesterday, 1 walk. Pretty solid, his first 3 starts. What have you seen from Dean Kramer?
He's been basically a revelation. The key thing I like is his pace was always dictated because he was so slow, because he was always behind in the count. And he seemed like he was pitching afraid to pitch. He doesn't appear to be afraid to pitch now. He sort of, something's gotten into him where psychologically he knows his stuff plays at this level, and he's just got to be more aggressive and throw strike 1, and he's doing a lot of that.
Yeah, I think the key for him is, and Zach alluded to this earlier today, throwing quality strikes and also pitching with confidence. And I think that he's proving to himself that he can pitch with success at this level, and it's showing on the field.
You know what's an unbelievable, and Zach probably knows it exactly, but the stats on what the opponent's batting average is when you get ahead 0-1 versus 1-0, 1-2 versus 2-1, it's almost unbelievable to the layman. You go, well, what the hell's the difference? It just really is. It's a game of controlling the count. And every time I looked up last night, because I was home, I was going to go to the game last night, and I frankly was a little too fatigued to go after a long day,
right.
Which is totally unusual for me. But anyway, I was eating dinner watching, and every time I looked up, I saw the count was 0-1, 1-2, not 2-1, 3-1, 2-0. It was remarkable, and I just keep my fingers crossed that we got something there, because when Dan Duquette picked him up, I know we were trading Manny Machado to the Dodgers with 2 months and 10 days left in his where they could control him. So you weren't going to get their best price. You weren't getting Walker Buehler or something like that, So we got him, and it looks, I'm quietly confident that we got something there.
Yeah, and Stan, to your point, I noticed him being ahead in a lot of counts, too, to the point where when I saw him fall behind in a count 2-1 in the 6th inning yesterday, I was like, oh, no, please don't let the wheels fall off. Because we've been battered by this before, but he was pitching so well and getting ahead so often that it was unusual to see a count like that. Now, the guy that he's throwing to, Stan, Adley Rutschman, he's finally turned it on. 10 for 29 his last 8 games, 5 doubles, a home run, 4 RBIs. Not just that, Stan, but the fire that he showed at the end of the game last night when Jorge Lopez got that strikeout to end the game. The fist pump, the jumping out of the crouch, the excitement to go out and congratulate his pitcher. This looks like the guy that he looks like a guy that turns around the franchise.
Well, I'll tell you the most important number to me for him is, and remember, most of the, according to Griffin Bass yesterday, they've played 26 games since he's been brought up, and they are now 13-13. Yeah. That's what I see. And again, has he been instrumental in all 13 victories? Of course not. But having a leader back behind that plate, and I urge anybody that hasn't read our cover story that's now off the streets, but it's still very available. It's called It Takes a Leader at PressBoxOnline.com. Our editor, Luke Jackson, did a great job with it. And there's just a lot of intangibles with him as a leader, as a teammate, that starts to feel real positive. He's a tremendous leader. There's no question about it. And I dare say over the last 3.5, 4 years since Mike Elias got here, I don't know that we've had a 26-game stretch where we've been 13-13.
Well, I'll tell you, Stan.
Maybe in 2020 we had a stretch like that, because of the weirdness of that season. But
Stan, I will tell you that in the Orioles' last 46 games this year, they're 23-23.
Yep.
They've been playing 500 baseball since the 20-game point in the season.
Right.
Zach, you had a point to make.
Yeah, Stan, I know you would express a bit of concern. I think it was after just one of the first few games that Adley had caught. You expressed some concern over some of the pitches that he had called during the game. Have you seen some improvements there from him on his pitch calling and kind of how he's handled these pitchers throughout the games?
I don't remember having said I had a major
I think it was just like one or two pitches. It wasn't like a major.
There was one pitch that I remember I did not understand. There was a change-up to somebody, and I said, why would you, but no, I don't generally have much of an argument with him,
Are you?
I love his setup. He's a nice ball player. There's really no question about it. Got a chance. I'm not ready to proclaim he's a Hall of Famer, but I can proclaim comfortably that we got ourselves a real solid foundation piece for the next 6 to 8 years at least.
He seems to be fantastic now. I do have one concern. I'm wondering how concerned you are. I've seen a lot of his throws sail into center field or short hop and end up in center field. Are you at all concerned about the throw downs to second base? So a lot of them are on the money, but a lot of them have ended up in center field as well.
I wouldn't call it a concern. It's just you remember they're trying to. I'm not saying that this is the reason, but remember, long term, they're going to go to these bigger bases next year, apparently. And part of the reasoning behind that is they want to have more stolen bases because it's going to be a shorter distance between bases.
Right.
So I think the key is not how many he throws out. It's that the throws are on the money, giving the shortstop or second baseman an opportunity to make a play. And, that whole thing has changed so much where it seems now that whoever is taking the throw tries to get in front of the bag and get the ball quicker and spin back and, swipe tag.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of outs recorded that way. So I don't have any big worries about it.
All right. Now, moving over to the pitching side of things, Bruce Zimmerman sent down following his 6th consecutive poor start. It's still early in his career, but what does Bruce Zimmerman's future look like? It's been 6 straight starts of 4 earned runs or more with a 9.79 ERA over that span.
Well, I'm not a huge fan. That was of all the trades, that was the trade we made with Atlanta where we sort of said, okay, we'll give you Gausman in the deal if you take Darren O'Day, who couldn't pitch that year that we traded him, and they knew they had to wait for him till the next year. But the Orioles saved about $12 million by them taking O'Day. So you're not going to get a lot back in return for Gausman there, because first of all, Gausman wasn't pitching that well at the time. But the key to that trade for the Orioles was salary reduction, because I think they saved about $2.5 million on Gausman and about 10 or 11 overall on O'Day. So that was the key to that. So having said that, I was optimistic that maybe Chris Holt and the whole analytic approach that they have was bringing something out of him that we hadn't seen early on. And it looked at, if you ask me thumbs up or thumbs down and you had a gun to my head, I'd probably say thumbs down. But he could go down there and string together. I hope he doesn't come up in 10 days now when we need a 5th starter or something, when he really hasn't had any time to accomplish anything. Right. I see that with not just the Orioles, with all organizations. They send their worst guy down to work on something, but the worst guy is still, because he had been in the major leagues most recently, is sort of the first guy to get called up. I'd like to see what he's done at AAA after 10 or 12 starts, and see if he really warrants sort of an August recall, that he's got something figured out. Because I think if they just bring him up and he gets thrown back in the mix again, right away, which is quite possible because they don't have, they're one injury away from needing another starter,
Right.
So, but again, I'm not a huge fan. I think he's a real good kid. I think he's earnest. I think he works pretty hard. I just don't think he has a world of stuff, and he certainly doesn't command what he has well enough in the strike zone.
Well, and somebody's going to need to replace him in the starting rotation. Now, Mike Ballman took his spot on the roster, but they've been using him strictly as a reliever this year. D.L. Hall would be working on normal rest if he were to make the start on Tuesday for the Orioles. Career-high 11 strikeouts and an 89-pitch outing his last time out. Is it time for D.L. Hall to be at the major league level?
It's darn close, I didn't pay attention to how the Nationals used Voth when we picked him up. Is he a candidate? Was he stretched out at one point this season?
Not this year. They're still building his innings up, but he was a starter for the Nationals in the past. Yes.
Yeah, in the past I knew he was a starter, but I didn't know what they used him as this year.
Yeah, they've been saying on the broadcast.
My gut is that's who'll get the start when they need a spot, and it'll be like a 3-inning attempt. With Brian Baker behind them for 2 or something like that.
Yeah, probably. They don't need a 5th starter till next Saturday. But
I'll tell you again, And I'll leave it to the experts, Mike Elias and Sig and those guys, and Chris Holt. But boy, when I see those numbers that DL Hall puts up, I still go back to thinking he's Josh Hader, and that's his real. Despite the fact we need starting pitching, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see him in a starting role with the Orioles this year. But with the injury history and durability issues, I just wonder if you're not better off sort of, brushing your hands together and say, let's get 75 to 85 innings out of this guy in meaningful games you have a chance to win, that he comes in and he's like a rook on the chessboard. You just can't match him.
Yeah, Stan, I think one of the big concerns for me and the reliever risk with DL Hall is so high because the pitch efficiency just hasn't been that good. And he's talked a lot about command and the criticism he's gotten from the media regarding it, and how he thinks his command is probably a little better than everyone else does. But then you see him go out there and throw 4 1/3 innings and only throw 89 pitches in that amount of time. And you would have liked to seen him get maybe 5 innings, 6 innings out of 89 pitches, but you get 4 1/3. Does the pitch efficiency concern you at all in that reliever risk as well?
Yeah, I mean, when you lay it out that way, Zach, it certainly is. My gut again, if you put a gun to my head again and said starter reliever, I think has a chance to be a phenomenal relief pitcher. I think you're looking at an uphill battle with with trying to make him a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't. He's been around long enough that you start to see a pattern, and you don't see many long starts in his career. Now, some of that is by the fact they wanted to control his pitch counts and innings pitched earlier. But, it was like when the Orioles acquired Dylan Tate, the Yankees had acquired him from Texas. He was a former #1 pick by Texas. He was a relief pitcher in college, a stud relief pitcher in college. And the Yankees concluded we can turn him into a starter. Well, they'd had him for 3 years, and he had never even pitched like 80, 90 innings in a season. And I go, what makes you think all of a sudden at 25 years old you're going to turn this guy into a starting pitcher? I don't see where the buildup comes on DL Hall where he's going to be efficient for you as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, the pitch efficiency has certainly been hampering his career to this point, and you may be right, Stan. It may ultimately come down to, look, we think that when you are just throwing at your max for an inning or two, that's when you're going to be able to help us the best. We'll see how that goes. I know that.
I mean, I'll tell you, if he's up next year in that role, and Grayson is here, and they go out and spend money and pick up one other starting pitcher, and they have the offense that they're putting out there now, and they start to be I won't call them a dangerous club just yet. They start to be a very interesting club.
Yeah, I think that they're on the cusp of turning a corner here in the coming months, and maybe as soon as next year we will certainly see. Now, Stan, I know we have limited time with you today, so I want to jump into a segment that I thought about the other day, and Kyle Stowers made me think of it because he came up when Anthony Santander had to miss the 4 games in Toronto, and we all know why.
Right.
And he only played in the 2 games. I feel like he would have played in all 4 had sorry, I'm trying to hold back a sneeze here. I feel like he would have he would have played in all 4 had it been this is your debut and you're here to stay. But because they knew Santander was coming back, he only played in 2 of the games. They were also matching up with a lefty, and Gossman's really, really tough against left-handed pitchers, so I understood that.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see Stowers again until Anthony Santander is traded. And I think we can all agree that at the deadline, the Orioles are going to be sellers. So I have a list of several names here. I want you to tell me if these players are likely to be traded or not and why. And we're going to start with Anthony Santander. It seems like he's a placeholder for Stowers until the Orioles find the right deal for
him. Part of this, and I read your notes, the things you wanted to talk about. This is like a domino effect, Mm-hmm. So if you do trade, I'm going to jump ahead of you here. And Jim Bowden's piece in The Athletic, the 125 players to watch that could get traded. was really fascinating when he got to the name Cedric Mullins.
Right.
Because there are some teams out there that really say, you know what, price point and what he accomplished last year and the whole package, speed and all that, we could give up some prospects for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed to the Marlins in particular, who aren't really in contention, but they're not 100% out of it either. And Kim Eng is a pretty creative general manager, I think. And she might, but Bowden actually said, this is one to watch, because he said the Orioles aren't actively pursuing trading him, but if somebody comes, so you start to look at it, is Miami going to throw you two really good pitching prospects for Anthony Santander? I don't see it, you know. And Mancini, I think the problem, and I think Mancini will get dealt, but I think the problem with him is I don't think the Marlins view him as a outfielder. You know,
right?
I think most teams, probably rightfully so, view him as a real good DH.
And Jim Bowden did say that if Trey Mancini is traded, he could be the best bat dealt at this deadline.
Yeah, I again, don't overlook the New York Mets, because the Mets are going to be in a dogfight with the Braves to win the division. Before it's all over, the Braves are, you know, they've made their giant move, and now incrementally they can go pace to pace with the Mets and be close enough that they can overtake them. But I think Buck Showalter is going to convince the owner that, hey, this isn't just a battle for the National League East. We want to be in the World Series against the Yankees, and we want to be able to beat the Yankees. And how do they get better? I think their DHs have probably have, you know, again, I haven't studied it, but Robinson Cano was such a flop, and Dominic Smith wasn't doing it, so he's back in the minors. They could use a really good DH, and I think Trey Mancini and Buck Showalter, the relationship is a solid one. They've stayed in touch. It makes a lot of sense to me.
That does make a lot of sense.
Do I have a matchup of who they'd give us for that? But because they'd have to give us when we trade. When you start talking about trading Mancini Mullins, you start to talk about needing to get back really near ready, can't miss prospects.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. No. For Mullins, I would agree with Mancini. I don't know that you're going to get near ready, can't miss prospect, but the bat has been phenomenal. Zach,
I was thinking possibly.
I'll tell you one other thing about seriously, and Luke Jackson and I talk a lot of baseball during games. We're back and forth texting on the phone. We are both really down on Mullins, his arm. You know, that
it's
good
awful.
teams, the smart teams, just run on him with not 1 ounce of, you know, hesitation at all. Tagging up from first to second, going from first to third very easily. It's not long term. It's just not an arm. I'll tell you, you know, McKenna has really, you know, he's a decent ball player.
He's no longer an automatic out in the
lineup.
Nope,
he's no longer an automatic out, and he is, despite that one flop play early in the year in left field that I still don't know how he missed.
Yeah, right.
He's still he's come on, and he's fast. He plays hard. You can tell his teammates like him. So you know, they've got in addition to Stowers, they got now. Can Stowers, Zach and Paul, can he play any center field, or would Hayes move to center?
I would imagine Hayes would move to center, but he has been playing all 3 outfield spots down in Norfolk.
Yeah.
So, all right, Stan, I know that you're just about out of time, so we're going to save some of these names for next week, and we'll get back at this with you.
All right.
Next
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great rest of the show. Tell Rich Dubroff I said hello.
Hey, Stan, real quick, who do you have on Monday?
I think we're going to end up doing something a little different. I think we're going to have a baseball roundtable with Luke Jackson, but I got to run that by Ross. We were looking at getting Jim Gott, the former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher. His son Trevor pitches in the major leagues. Jim is Dave Tremblay's pitching coach in that league. for
the college, the
players.
Keyser, yeah.
So he's his pitching coach, but I thought they were off on Monday nights. He said, please call me as soon as the season's over. So Jim got that down the road. And then I threw out the name Rich Stour to Ross Grimsley, and let's keep our thoughts and prayers out there for Rich Stour. Took a bad fall and is battling right now. So,
sorry to hear that.
Great ex-Oriole, So anyway, I think it'll be Luke Jackson, Ross Grimsley, and I, and we'll do a roundtable panel just about some of these same topics.
All right.
Okay?
Sounds excellent, Sam. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy your weekend.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
See you. And that was Stan the Fan, Charles, who has two great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan and Ross caught up with former Hall of Fame president Jeff Adelson and great sports photographer Gene Fruth, while Stan and Gary chatted with Calvert Hall golf coach and 105.7 The Fan host Drew Forrester. Find those shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. As Stan just said, he and Ross are back this Monday, likely with Luke Jackson, the editor from PressBox Sports, to have a baseball roundtable. And on Wednesday, Stan and Gary will chat with the Johns Hopkins lacrosse legend Kyle Harrison. That and more to come from Stan the Fan, Charles. With that in mind, it is time for Sounding Off with Zach Goodman, which is brought to you today by me. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around, server extraordinaire, just overall good guy.
Great guy.
Overall good guy.
Great guy.
Nice to see you. Zach, what do you got for me Sounding Off?
I thought you were about to do a live read here. All right.
I was going to, but they're long.
Brought to you by me.
We did a long one, and so
fair enough. Well, I'll get to it then. So I wanted to explore a little bit this week after hearing about Anthony Rendon and his season-ending injury that is just another roadblock in his contract with the Angels. That was one of the bigger contracts given out over the last few years and still has $154 million left on it over the next 4 years, which is sizable money. And I'm going to preface this by saying
almost $40 million a year.
Yeah, right. And Rendon was a great player with the Washington Nationals. He was a great player that
he had a legitimate case to be MVP in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a 6.5 WAR player. I mean, the guy was phenomenal. The guy was phenomenal. So I don't necessarily, and again, this is just a preface, but I don't necessarily blame the Angels 100% for going out and doing what they did and giving him the contract.
Because they wanted Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole didn't want to come.
That's also true. And the Angels are a team that have had Mike Trout, and obviously Ohtani was kind of starting to be in the mix at that point. And they want to supplement those guys with guys around them. So I get it. I get why you signed Rendon, but this is turning out to be one of the worst long-term contracts that we've seen given out in years. And you look at Chris Davis, obviously that was horrible, but Rendon's not even that far back from there. I mean, he's been simply not that great on the field, and he's been basically off the field the entire time of his contract. He's only hit 20 home runs. He's batting about .255. I mean, those are pretty average numbers, nothing to get too really excited about.
Yeah, but when you consider the fact that this is his third season there, and those are his numbers?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's nothing to write home about. So I want to do some research on long-term contracts and essentially their success rates over time. So there was a study that was done by Britton Hagen in 2017 that analyzed success rates in long-term contracts from 2001 to 2010. And it measured these success rates by contracts that were 5+ years, and it measured it by the stat of dollar per win by replacement. So essentially mixing money being paid to them and WAR, which is not exactly a stat I've heard of before, but it works out here, and he explains it a little bit if you want to go read the article about that. But he found that there is a 29.7% success rate in these contracts that are 5+ years from 2001 to 2010, which is obviously pretty low. And he also found that teams give out extensions are far more successful than teams that give out long-term free agent contracts, and also that guys receiving these long-term contracts between 21 and 24, which Rendon was not, are far more successful in the long-term scheme of things. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because you look at the bulk of these long-term extensions that have been given out, and they've been pretty bad. Like they don't have. I mean, you give out a 6-year extension, you're expecting a guy to be good for maybe 4 of them. I mean, you're expecting to waste probably 2 of those years, and in basically any long-term contract you give out, maybe if you give out a 10-year contract, you're expecting to waste 4 years. And I just think it's going to make teams rethink how they're giving out free agent contracts in the future. And I think you're already starting to see it because Carlos Correa this year, he was offered more. We don't really get the background of that, but he ended up signing a deal that was a short-term contract and has opt-outs that he could be a free agent as soon as this year. So I think teams are starting to rethink a little bit how they structure these deals because of guys like Anthony Rendon and guys like Chris Davis that have just failed completely over these long-term contracts.
And you look at really the only contract that's worked out was Max Scherzer with the Nationals.
Yes,
right? Because even Clayton Kershaw's monster contract, the last half of it, he suffered from back injuries every year, right? And then you look at David Price's big contract, and I don't even know that he still pitches. You know,
I think he's in the pen for the Dodgers.
I think he's with the Dodgers, but he hasn't been relevant in 4 years, right? And then you look at the Angels, and man, you think the Orioles were snake bitten with the Chris Davis contract. Look at the Angels with C.J. Wilson; they got nothing out of him.
Yeah,
Josh Hamilton, they got nothing out of him.
Another good one.
Albert Pujols, good player, right? Great Hall of Fame player in St. Louis. With the exception of his first season when he hit .299 and drove in 99 with the Angels, he was mediocre.
And especially those last 3 years, he did nothing.
I mean, he drove in a ton of runs for them. He drove in a ton of runs for them, but the average was middling. Right? I think
he was always in the 250s. Around there,
He'd hit 20 to 30 home runs, driving 80 to 100, but couldn't play the field for. He was a one-trick pony.
He was no MVP, and that's certainly not what.
And they paid him to be an MVP, and he wasn't an MVP, right? And so now, and then you look at the Justin Upton contract. Didn't really work out too well for them. And now you look, they've got Mike Trout, and now he's coming down with injuries the last couple of years,
and also got a massive extension. Yeah,
got that massive extension, and it just Anthony Rendon. He couldn't stay healthy in college.
Yeah.
He had, I think, 2 or 3 healthy seasons in Washington, but he was hurt a lot there, and he's been hurt the entirety of his tenure with the Angels. And when he has been on the field, the numbers haven't been there.
Yeah, he's been very average, and his defense has been good. I will say that his defense has been excellent, which is, I guess, par for the course for him. He is a good defender, but the hitting numbers. I think when he went down this year, he was only hitting like the 220s, 230s. So he's certainly not a guy that is certainly an impact bat.
And now he's done for the season after only 45 games. I believe that Anthony Rendon is an impact player still.
He is.
But he's got to stay on the field.
He's got to.
Yeah. And maybe they've reached a point where this dude's got a DH. Yeah. We've got to keep him off his feet as much as possible. And if all he has to do is take 4 at-bats a game, then maybe that's what it's going to take for this guy to get back to being a 280 to 320 hitter that hits 30 home runs.
I know another example. I know I just said that extensions have been generally more successful than free agent contracts, but you look at Steven Strasburg, who just received a massive extension from the Nationals, and now there's questions of if he'll ever pitch again because there are some serious injury issues going on with him and his hands and his wrists. And he's back on the injured list. He pitched 1 game, started this week, and was not good. He gave up, I think, 7 earned over 4.2 innings. So he is another great example of that.
Yeah, and I love Steven Strasburg. Hopefully he can bounce back from this, but it's kind of telling that 1 start and he's right back on the IL. All right, that's going to do it for hour number 1 of the Bat Around. Today's first hour of the show is brought to you by the Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. It's the best place to be for the playoffs and all the big upcoming events. That is the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Bet on every sport with 61 self-service kiosks open 24/7 and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. Big crowds are expected at Live Casino and Hotel this week with Dave Chappelle performing in the hall at Live. So the FanDuel Sportsbook will have lots of foot traffic. If you're looking to come out to watch and bet on the U.S. Open today or tomorrow or Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, make sure you reserve your spot by emailing events at sportssocialmd.com. When we come back from the break from BaltimoreBaseball.com, Rich Dubroff on the Bat Around.
Hey O's fans, 2022 Orioles single game tickets are on sale now. Come celebrate the 30th anniversary of Oriole Park at Camden Yards with tickets starting as low as $10. Relive your favorite moments and make new memories this season. Choose from your favorite homestands when the O's take on the New York Yankees, Washington Nationals, and Boston Red Sox, or fan favorite giveaways like Birdland Hawaiian shirt and collectible bobbleheads. Experience the ballpark that forever changed baseball. Buy now at Orioles.com/tickets.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy our award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try our fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or our scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for our daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. Visit us at glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows that the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Welcome back to the Bat Around. Joining us now from BaltimoreBaseball.com, he is Rich Dubroff, and we are very happy to have him back on the show. Rich, good morning to you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing really well. Orioles are playing some exciting, good baseball right now, so we're pretty happy with that. And at the forefront of that last night was Dean Kramer, who looks the best we've ever seen him in an Orioles uniform. He goes 6 shutout innings after a 5-inning, 1-run outing. The previous outing, he's throwing strikes. He's pitching with confidence. What have you seen from Dean Kramer that's turned around his season?
Yeah, I mean, he's. I think you described it. He is pitching with confidence, and the walks aren't there.
Right.
And that's really good. This is the first time I saw him. I missed the first. I missed his first 2 games, and I think that he was really, really impressive last night. Helped out a lot by good throws there in the 6th inning. Rutschman, Rutschman's throw, and then Santander's. So he basically had a 3-up, 3-down inning, even though he gave up 2 hits. So he was really helped out there, and they got one run, and it was a good win for him.
You mentioned Adley. He's gotten his back going. He's turning into a team leader right before our eyes. Was it just a matter of him slowing things down and catching his breath?
Well, I think that it was obvious that the bigger adjustment for him was going to be offensive rather than defensive, because his defense was major league all the way. I remember seeing him last year and thinking how impressive his defense was then down at Bowie, and I think that his defense was good to start. And he's facing the types of pitchers that he's never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
and that's difficult. But he's catching his breath, and things are turning around. He's really helped out. He's helped out the team defense. He's helped out the lineup. Because for a while there, once he got to the second half of the lineup, it didn't look terribly potent. But now it looks much better.
Right.
So I think things are, I think he's really helped the club in the few weeks he's been here.
Now, the team is 23-23 over their last 46 games. That's 500 ball over more than a quarter of the season stretch. How important is it to this rebuild they've taken such a leap for the time being from last year's record?
Well, I think it's important because if you look at the players on the field, some of these guys have been there now a few years. Mm-hmm. Mullins and Hayes and Mountcastle. And some of the pitchers have, like Kramer and Aiken have shown improvement, and that's really good. And what's impressive is they've played well despite not having their top two pitchers. I mean, if you said at the beginning of the year that, John Means is going to be gone after two starts, mm-hmm. and Grayson Rodriguez isn't going to be able to pitch for them, maybe at all, or maybe only at the end of the season, and for them to have this record is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And when you look at it, really, the lineup has been playing really good baseball since the beginning of May. The bullpen's been good all year. It really comes down to the starting pitching. We just saw Bruce Zimmerman. He struggled mightily over the last 6 starts, a 9.79 ERA and 33 runs allowed in 30 1/3 innings. Michael Ballman has been recalled to take his roster spot. D.L. Hall had 11 strikeouts on 89 pitches, both season highs in his last outing. You speculated in an article for BaltimoreBaseball.com that he would be the most deserving of a call-up, and that if he pitched every 5th day the rest of the season with a 5-inning limit, he'd be at 65 to 70 Major League innings and a little over 100 for the season. How likely is it that D.L. Hall takes Bruce Zimmerman's spot in the rotation as early as Tuesday?
I think that's going to happen. I think that Hall, it's logical. If they wanna, if they have an innings limit for him, they should use as many of those innings as they can in the major leagues. And the Orioles have a need, and there's really no other logical contender right now. If you look at AAA, Spencer Watkins is there, but he's been limited in innings and wasn't all that effective recently when he was with the Orioles. You have Cody Sedlock, you have Kevin Smith, and they haven't been really stretched out. You have Denji Reyes, but he hasn't really been stretched out that much. And I don't see. I guess they could try Austin Voth, mm-hmm. but I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty likely that D.L. Hall's the guy, and I think that would be a good thing for him.
Now, how much Grayson Rodriguez? He strained the oblique, and it was likely his last start.
That was
the lat. I'm sorry, the lat. He strained his lat, and it was likely his last start at AAA before getting his major league call. How much of that do you think plays, if any, into how they're going to handle D.L. Hall?
Well, Hall was always going to be a special case because Hall, Hall only threw 31 and a third innings last year.
Yeah.
31 and 2/3 innings last year. So Hall was always going to be limited. Mm-hmm. And Rodriguez's absence creates a hole, but Hall was going to be here. Let's say if Rodriguez was here, would they still be calling up Hall right now? I don't know. But I think that it's important to give Hall, the major league exposure. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Rodriguez is going to get limited at best major league exposure this year and not, maybe not much at all. But what's disturbing about Rodriguez is that, he'll be on a limited innings count for next year.
Yeah,
because
which is frustrating.
because he won't have finished the whole year. Even though last year he did 110. I guess it was about 110 innings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that maybe he could do that in the big leagues next year. But that's still that's still pretty pretty conservative that that he'd be doing 4 or 5 inning starts. And I know they're very conservative with that. But and things are getting better for them, but they are being very, very careful with these guys, and they want to see Hall. Hall is now the best pitching prospect that's not here who's available.
Right.
And there aren't any great pitching prospects beyond Hall right now, which is a little troubling.
Yeah, it is. I was looking at it last night, and after DL Hall, there's nobody that you can really say is deserving of getting a call. And they have some guys in the lower levels that are good, but they're not going to be here for a couple of years. And that it's what does that do for the Orioles as far as their off-season plans when it comes to pitching? Because they don't have a lot of the reserves like we just said.
Well, they may be active. They may be active in the free agent market.
Mm-hmm.
They have Jordan. They have Jordan Lyles, who's turned out to be, even though he's, his ERA is in the 5 range, he's turned out to be an important innings eater.
Right.
But I think what they may have to do is at the trading deadline this year, maybe look for pitchers who are major league ready or nearly major league ready.
Right.
Because they're going to have to have more guys, because some of the guys, haven't panned out. Zach Lothar, they had hoped could be a pitcher who, helped them. And now, he was designated for assignment this week after having a 10 ERA at AAA. Alexander Wells has been hurt. They'd like to see some of him, but it's still going to be a while until Wells is ready to pitch.
Right.
And they signed Matt Harvey, who's finishing up his suspension. But Matt Harvey, was an innings eater last year, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So there are not a lot of great, alternatives, and they're going to have to hope that everybody stays healthy. And they'd like to see Zimmerman work out his issues at AAA because in the first 6 starts he was really good this year. Mm-hmm. And I thought that he was going to be maybe their second best pitcher. Fortunately, Tyler Wells has been much better than expected.
Any concerns about the low strikeout totals for Tyler Wells?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
An outs and out. I think an outs and out. Greg Maddox did okay.
That's true.
Pitching. So no, I don't worry. I don't worry about that. I mean, I notice. I look at their minor league boxes every night, and I notice that there are a lot of guys who strike out a lot. A lot of hitters, and that's good. But if you can be economical with your pitches, and you get weak contact early in the count, then it's just as good as a strikeout.
I'll tell you, I look at the minor league box scores every night also, Rich, and it's pretty exciting looking at AAA's box scores the last couple of weeks. Gunnar, Henderson, Jordan Westburg, they're tearing it up in their first 2 weeks of AAA. How likely is it that we see one or both of them at some point this season if this continues, and are we looking at the starting left side of the Orioles infield on opening day in 2023?
Maybe. I don't know. It was funny. I thought I was a little surprised that they moved them that aggressively this year. Mm-hmm. But also they had guys at Aberdeen and Bowie that they wanted to take a look at, like Cesar Prieto moved up from Aberdeen and Bowie when Henderson and Westburg moved up. So at first I would have thought no, there was very little chance that they'd play at the end of the year. But maybe one of the reasons if they don't bring them up would be that they'd want to try and save 40-man spots for other, for other prospects.
That's true. That's a great point.
But I haven't really, I haven't really dug into, who all the contenders are for those 40-man spots. But I think that the organization is getting, deeper. It's not as deep, obviously, as they want it to be because of pitching.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting much deeper in the infield and the outfield.
Now, you mentioned Cesar Prieto, and he actually did get to spend about a week or two playing alongside Jordan Westburg and Gunnar Henderson at Bowie. 0 for 6 last night, but he was 10 for 23 in his previous 5 games. He was batting .298 heading into last night's game, now down to .278. And this is all after hitting .340 at Aberdeen. The MO on this guy when the Orioles signed him in the international signing period was that he hits. He's just a hitter. He doesn't strike out a ton. He gets on base. How far behind Westburg and Henderson is he from getting to AAA? Is this a move that you could see happening by the end of the year?
Yeah, sure. I think that certainly could happen, especially how they move guys around, from position to position. But I mean, I saw him a little bit in spring training. I've only been to one minor league game this year at Bowie. So I haven't seen him play other than in spring training. But I was impressed with how he moved, and he seemed to have a live bat. So I think he's another guy that that could be a contender. And then they have Connor Norby, whose bat has been a little slow in getting started, but still at Aberdeen. But yeah, there are a lot of contenders, and they're in all my time watching the Orioles, this is the deepest farm system that I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it's certainly been fun to watch. And Heston Kjerstad's hitting the field and batting .313 through his first 5 games. Power not there just yet, but I think that's going to come. It's really fun to see what's going on in the minor league level. And with Prieto, with Henderson, with Westburg, I think that all 3 of these guys could be seeing time at the big league level in 2023. So, Rich, my question for you is, what does that mean for Jorge Mateo and Ramon Urias? Urias hasn't proven that he can stay on the field. Mateo's defense and speed have been elite, but the bat has been subpar. What's their future with the Orioles beyond this season?
Yeah, I would think that they would both be with the. My guess is that they'd both be with the Orioles in spring training next year. Mateo Mateo looks to be a really great defensive shortstop. The bat isn't there, and he was also considered a utility player. But he could be a useful big leaguer. The thing about Urias is a utility guy. It looks like, and yes, he's had some issues, but you always need one utility guy.
Right.
The Orioles picked up they picked up a player this week, Jonathan Arraez.
Yeah.
Arraez,
I want to say, from
Arraez.
from
Okay,
Boston.
I think you're right. Okay, but and readers asked me, well, why'd they pick him up? They got all these other guys, and actually they don't.
Right.
A good utility guy, a trustworthy utility player, is harder to find than you think. The Orioles had Ryan Flaherty, and then they had Jace Flaherty, and they had Jace Peterson. But it's hard to find a trustworthy utility player, and there's nothing wrong with having one or two of those guys around, because there's Rylan Bannon in the minor leagues, but he doesn't play shortstop. He's mostly a third baseman, plays a little second. Richie Martin, who's mostly a shortstop, but he's played second, but he's not a third baseman, little outfield, but he's not necessarily a true utility guy. But you want your utility infielder, you want to be able to play shortstop.
Oh yeah.
It's like a backup outfielder like Ryan McKenna. He's valuable because he can play center field.
Mm-hmm.
Center field's the most important position in the outfield generally. Although you could argue with the change in dimensions this year that left field may be harder to play. But you want your utility outfielder, your backup outfielder, to be able to play center, and you want your utility infielder to be able to play shortstop. Because if they can play shortstop, they can likely play second or third.
And with Jorge Mateo, you have a super utility guy because he can play the outfield, he can play the infield, he can play shortstop, he can play center, and he can pinch run, and he's stupid fast. So that's a guy who I think could be around. I'm not so sure about Arias, but we will see. Time will tell. Rich, I know that you have limited time today, so we really appreciate you taking a few minutes for us. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you down the line, all right?
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. And that was Rich Dubroff from BaltimoreBaseball.com. You can find all of his writing, along with Peter Schmuck, who is back writing for BaltimoreBaseball.com. You can find that all there. I believe Todd Karpovich still covers some minor leagues for them as well. Great content over there, and I feel like Rich and I are on the same page with DL Hall. We just got to get you on the page with us too, Zach.
Yeah, I maybe feel a little bit more conservatively about what I see him in the long term, but I think you guys, you make great points. I always just, and I've said this a million times, and people are probably tired of hearing me say it, but generally the guys who have better stuff and little command are in the bullpen. So that's just kind of where I land with him, and I just want to see him improve that efficiency, and I think if he does, he can definitely be a starter.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I said this last week on this show, if they bring him up to replace a pitcher like a Bruce Zimmerman, I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. If they leave him down and they say, look, we want to see you dominate for 5, 6, 7 starts in a row, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah.
If they don't bring him up, will I be disappointed? Sure, but that's just because I want to watch the guy pitch at the big league level.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be disappointed because I think he belongs here. I'm going to be disappointed because I want to watch him pitch.
No, me too. If he comes up on Tuesday, I will make a concerted effort to watch that because I really want to see this guy pitch. And frankly, he's one of the few Orioles top prospects that I haven't seen pitch live. So I'd love to actually see him get out there. I've seen plenty of video and all that, but it's definitely a different dynamic when you're out there live and actually seeing them. I guess you focus a little more when you're out there live. So I'm looking forward to it, and I might even make it down to the ballpark. Are they at home on Tuesday? The Orioles, would that be a home start for Hall?
Yeah, they're facing the Nationals.
Okay, so yeah, I might make a trip down there and see that.
You could have him pitch against. You could have him pitch against a really bad baseball team to get his feet under him.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think about that, but I don't know what their schedule looks like. I know the Orioles, the Orioles faced one of the hardest schedules in baseball for really the past few months, and now they're, I think, getting into a stretch where the schedule maybe evens out a little bit more. It's not as difficult, so maybe some debuts against bad teams like the Washington Nationals would make sense. I think it's a good point.
So I realized that I only wrote 2 breaks into my notes, and we're supposed to have 3. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our second break of the day. Today's show is brought to you by the... Here we go. There's some tough names in here.
Oh.
Today's show is brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now, and it's our very first Salute to Coaches issue. On the cover, we recognize Ravens coach John Harbaugh ahead of his 15th season in Baltimore. An inside tribute to Navy football coach Ken Niumatalolo, UMBC soccer coach Pete Coringi, Maryland soccer coach, oh my gosh, I should have really tried this, Maryland soccer coach Sasha Sarovsky, and field hockey coach Missy Maharg, Mount St. Joe basketball coach Pat Clatchy, and Poly basketball coach Kendall Peace. We also honor recently retired Johns Hopkins lacrosse coach Janine Tucker and Calvert Hall baseball coach Lou Eckerl. The athletes whose lives these coaches have impacted offer insights on what makes them special and why they've stood the test of time. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. We'll be back after this on The Bat Around.
Are you ready, soccer fans? This summer, the English Premier League returns to Baltimore. Arsenal, Everton, square off in the Charm City match, July 16th, under the lights at M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Baltimore Ravens. This is your only opportunity to take in a Premier League match this summer in the Mid-Atlantic region. Individual and group tickets are on sale at BaltimoreRavens.com.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy our award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try our fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or our scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for our daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. Visit us at glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and it's our very first Salute the Coaches issue. On the cover, we recognize Ravens coach John Harbaugh ahead of his 15th season. Also inside, find tributes to Navy football coach Ken Niumatalolo, UMBC soccer coach Pete Caringi, Maryland soccer coach Sasho Sorovsky, and field hockey coach Missy Maharg, Mount St. Joe basketball coach Pat Clatchy, and Poly basketball coach Kendall Peace. We also honor recently retired Johns Hopkins lacrosse coach Janine Tucker and Calvert Hall baseball coach Lou Eckerl, the athletes whose lives these coaches have impacted, offering insights on what makes them special and why they've stood the test of time. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Hey Birdland families, this Father's Day, join the O's in celebrating Dad at the Yard as they take on the Tampa Bay Rays Sunday, June 19th at 1:35. Go above and beyond by treating Dad to a fun-filled day with the entire family. Make sure to get to the ballpark early because the first 10,000 fans ages 15 and over will receive an Orioles golf visor. Dad's Day done right this year with the O's. Don't wait until the last minute when planning Father's Day. Secure your tickets now at Orioles.com/tickets.
All right, welcome back to the Bat Around. I kind of butchered that live read, so real quick, I just want to remind you again to go pick up the latest edition of the Press Box, which is our very first Salute to Coaches issue, where we recognize John Harbaugh on the cover and tributes Navy football coach Ken Niumatalolo, UMBC soccer coach Pete Caringi, Maryland soccer coach Sasha Sorovsky, and field hockey coach Missy Maharg, Mount St. Joe basketball coach Pat Clatchy. I struggle with Pat and Pete, and Poly basketball coach Kendall Peace, and we also honor recently retired Johns Hopkins lacrosse coach Janine Tucker and Calvert Hall baseball coach Lou Eckerl. Find that in over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and check out PressBoxOnline.com for the latest online edition. It is time for, you know what? I need you to vamp real quick.
Okay.
I need you to talk about DL Hall a little bit more for me.
Sure.
Because I forgot to finish one score.
Okay. Or I can just do mine first. I mean, I can just run down the Saturday scores.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Tell me why you think DL Hall is not going to be here on Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, I do think, we talk about pitch efficiency. We talk about DL Hall pitching more innings and just getting enough innings under his belt to be able to, I guess, be a starter in the major leagues for a prolonged period of time. And I think we both know that at some point, DL Hall is going to be shut down, right? Like, we know there will be an inning limit for him. Like you mentioned, it could be maybe 15 more than what he's done previously. You look at 110, maybe he gets to 115. So it's really the question now. You look at that and the workload questions. The question becomes, do the Orioles want DL Hall to get the remaining innings in the majors, or do they want him to start dominating at AAA? And I think you made a good point when you talked about DL Hall dominating at AAA, because he's been good, but he hasn't, I wouldn't say he's been dominant. You look at a guy who's dominant, that's a guy who's going out there like Grayson Rodriguez did, and he's giving you 7 innings, 8 innings, not that Grayson did that, but you get my point. And, you're giving up 2 hits, striking out 10, and you're just basically doing this over and over, and it's a repetitive cycle of going out there and dominating every night. And I don't think that DL Hall has necessarily done that this year. A lot of his outings have been quite short. You've seen a lot of 5-inning outings and some in the 4s as well, which is concerning to me. And I think that, again, speaks to the lack of pitch efficiency that he's shown, frankly, over his entire minor league career. And as I said to Stan earlier, there's been a lot of people, especially in the media, that have really criticized him and said, hey, you don't have a lot of command, you might not be a starter. And he's fought back against that and said this year he's going to come out and prove that he has that command. And I just don't necessarily know if he's proved that to the Orioles yet. And maybe the Orioles are a team that says, okay, we want you to get these starts in the major leagues. It's more important for you to be up here than down at AAA. And you're ready being at the age you are. Maybe he improves his pitch efficiency at the majors, maybe, but I don't know if he's done enough yet.
Well, and hopefully, if he, did you say something about him potentially starting against a really bad team?
I did not. No.
Yeah, if he were to start on Tuesday, it would be against a Washington Nationals team that has legitimately the second fewest wins in baseball,
right?
23, as opposed to the Kansas City Royals 21, 22 now actually. But on top of that, they have the most losses in baseball. It's the worst team in baseball. Why not let him get his first start at home against a really bad baseball team?
They certainly could. I mean, that could be the plan.
And I do want to talk a little bit more about DL Hall because I do have a couple of questions for you about him regarding.
Sure, we'll jump in a moment.
Regarding relieving and starting and whatnot and how he feels about that. But first, it's time for the payoff pitch around the league. Dean Kramer tossed 6 shutout innings, and Adley Rutschman collected 2 hits and the lone RBI as the Orioles blanked the Rays 1-0. Bryce Harper reached base 4 times while Nick Castellanos doubled twice and drove in 2 to lead the Phillies over the Nationals 5-3 in Game 1 of a doubleheader. In the nightcap, Matt Vierling homered twice for the Phillies, and Bryce Harper had a pinch hit, game-tying 2-run double in the 8th inning, leading the Phillies to an 8-7 victory in 10 innings. Josh Bell homered twice for the Nationals in the loss, while Juan Soto went 0 for 8 in the doubleheader to drop his batting average to .216. It was the Nationals' 7th straight loss, dropping them to an NL worst 23-45. Their 23 losses are worse than all but the Kansas City Royals, and their 45 losses are the most in the majors. Keegan Thompson tossed 6 innings of shutout ball while striking out 9, and Chris Morel drove in the lone run on a sac fly in the 8th as the Cubs snapped their 10-game losing streak and Atlanta's 14-game winning streak with a 1-0 win over the Braves. Talk about a reverse lock. Hunter Renfroe homered and drove in 3 as Brewers squeaked past the Reds 5-4. Carlos Rodon tossed 8 shutout innings with 8 Ks and solo home runs from Luis Gonzalez and Jock Peterson was all the run support needed as the Giants shut out the Pirates 2-0. In a matchup of AL East powerhouses, Yankees proved to be the class of the division, using 8-run 5th inning fueled by home runs from Giancarlo Stanton and DJ LeMahieu and a grand slam from Anthony Rizzo to crush Toronto 12-3. In a matchup of former teammates, Michael Wacha outdueled Adam Wainwright, allowing 1 run and 5 in the 3rd innings before Boston survived a late 4-run 9th inning rally to outlast the Cardinals 6-5. The Tigers' season-long offensive woes continued as they recorded just 5 hits, only 1 for extra bases against John Gray and the Rangers in the 7-0 loss. Gray tossed 7 innings in the victory. Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso each homered and drove in 4, the latter on a grand slam as the Mets took care of business against the Marlins 10-4. Speaking of taking care of business, the Astros scored 13 runs on 12 hits, including 5 home runs to smash the White Sox 13-3. Michael Brantley drove in 4 in the victory. C.J. Cron hit 2 home runs, including a 486-footer, and drove in 5 as the Rockies crushed the Padres 10-4. Salvador Perez homered, doubled, and drove in 2 as the Royals came out on top of the A's 5-1 in the battle of the AL's 2 worst teams. Judd Luplow, Luplow or Luplow?
I think Luplow.
Jordan Luplow homered twice and drove in 3 to back 6 innings, a 2-run ball from Madison Bumgarner as Arizona stifled the Twins 7-2. Zach Plesac allowed 1 run over 6 innings, while Clayton Kershaw allowed 1 run over 5 innings. But former Oriole Evan Phillips allowed the game-winning run to score in the 10th inning on a sac fly from Maryland native Richie Palacios as the Guardians took down the Dodgers 2-1. And finally, Robbie Ray struck out 10 over 7 innings of 1-run ball, and Ty France drove in 3 to carry the Mariners over the sinking Angels 8-1.
All right, what's on tap for today? Well, we got a lot of games ready to go. The Braves and the Cubs, Kyle Wright, the right-hander, against Justin Steele, the lefty, 220 at Wrigley Field. Jamison Taillon having a really good season against Alek Manoah, who's probably been the best pitcher in baseball to this point. Yankees and Jays, 307 at the Rogers Center. Giants at Padres, Alex Wood, Jose Quintana, two lefties going head-to-head, 405. Quintana at PNC Park, 405.
Let's go have some tortillas.
Jeffrey Springs, who dominated the Baltimore Orioles last time he faced them, pitches again today for the Rays against the right-hander against the Orioles, against the right-hander Kyle Bradish, 405 at Camden Yards. Brad Keller versus Cole Irvin, Kansas City Royals versus the Oakland Athletics at the O.co, 407 this afternoon. The Angels play game 1 of a doubleheader today. Patrick Sandoval versus Chris Flexen. The Angels looking to get back on track, 30-36, and just lost Rendon for the year against the Mariners, 410 at T-Mobile Park. Taylor Hearn versus Ronnie Garcia as the Rangers take on the Tigers, 410 at Comerica Park. The White Sox and Johnny Cueto, the veteran, will take on the very much veteran Justin Verlander as the Astros are at home against the 30-32 White Sox, 410 at Minute Maid Park. Justin Verlander, by the way, 1.94 ERA. He hasn't really gotten a lot of media.
He is one of the favorites for Cy Young at this point in the season.
He's pitching incredibly.
It's he and Alek Manoah, basically.
He's pitching incredibly. The Mets and the Marlins at Citi Field, 410. Braxton Garrett versus Taijuan Walker, another really good pitcher in the NL this year. Walker pitching to a 3.08 ERA. Jason Alexander pitches for the Brewers against Graham Ashcraft of the Cincinnati Reds. Reds are 23-41, one of the worst records in baseball. They're looking to get back on track at 410 at Great American Ballpark. 4:35, the Phillies and the Nats. Aaron Nola and the young ace Josiah Gray for the Nats at Nats Park. Guardians, they've won 14 of their last 17. They were one of the hottest teams in baseball. Wow. They're 33-27 against the Dodgers, 39-24. Cal Quantrill versus Julio Urias, 7:15 at Dodger Stadium. The Cardinals, 37-29 Cardinals, with Dakota Hudson on the mound against Cutter Crawford of the Boston Red Sox, 7:15 at the legendary Fenway Park. Padres at Rockies, Nick Martinez versus German Marquez, 9:10, or Herman Marquez, I should say, 9:10 at Coors Field. Angels and Mariners, game 2 of that doubleheader. Jose Suarez versus our favorite pitcher, to be determined, 10:10 at T-Mobile Park. And then the final game of the night, Twins and D-backs. Dylan Bundy, the former Oriole, takes on Luke Weaver, the young starter for the D-backs. 10:10 there at Chase Field. That's our games.
All right.
Good stuff.
Suarez.
Yeah, I really butchered Herman Marquez, calling him. I apologize to Herman Marquez.
I'm more okay with that than Jose Quintana.
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you take foreign language in high school?
I did. I took Spanish.
You took Spanish, and you still called him Quintana.
Yeah, you know what?
Thank God you didn't do the press box live read. God,
you should have seen my Spanish GPA. It was excellent.
I thought I butchered. There's no way. You know what?
It was. I promise you.
I guess just because you can't say the word doesn't mean you can't spell the word and don't know the meaning.
Nah, that's it. You know, I was a Spanish extraordinaire in my 3 years of doing it, and then I quit. And,
yeah, I did 4 years, and I never considered myself an extraordinaire. But I can.
I'm kidding. I probably couldn't give you. I could probably give you about 10 sentences in Spanish now. So it's kind of it's been a few years. It's been 4 years. So.
¿Dónde está el cuarto de baño?
Where's the bathroom?
Yeah. Hey, that was 7 words.
Yeah. See, we got a few left up in here. Anyway, moving on.
6 words.
6 words.
6 words. Anywho, Evan Phillips took that loss last night. It's a hard luck loss, right?
It's too bad.
It was a hard luck loss because they started with a runner on second base. The guy got over the third base with 1 out, and then it was a sac fly.
Truly hate to see it.
The Guardians won that game 2-1, and both runs scored on sacrifice flies.
Mm-hmm.
But Evan Phillips is 1-3 with a 2.10 ERA in 25 games.
Is he real? Wow.
For the Dodgers.
Wow.
Yeah, 2.10 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, he's always had good stuff. I guess I can say that about him. The slider was always good.
He didn't pitch poorly for 2 teams last year. He had an ERA in the 3s, and now this year, 2.10 ERA in 25 games, just about 26 innings with the Dodgers.
I was talking to someone about this the other day, that there's just such a high number of former Orioles that have gone on to other places and had such a crazy amount of success. And I think we even mentioned it on the show last week, that it's just it's probably not going to be a problem of the new regime, or at least we hope. I mean, there will be guys that go elsewhere and have success, but it's not going to be the I guess the rapid and repetitive problem it's been for them in the past 10 years.
I'll never forget Rich Hill sucking for one season, and it was the season he pitched in Baltimore. And then Wade Miley sucking for one season, and it was the season that he pitched in Baltimore.
Wade Miley has been excellent over the past 3 years or so. He's been excellent.
He's hurt right now, is he?
I haven't heard much about him, so I'm gonna agree with you.
He's got to be hurt because there is a point where I was talking about him a lot in these around the leagues, and I haven't seen his name pop up.
I don't think he's. I would guess
he was
not
pitching
pitching
well at a point this year.
He's on the 15-day injured list. Yeah,
but yeah, he is. He just started on June 10th.
Okay, and he's got a 2.84 ERA.
2.84 ERA.
Yeah.
Yep, he's been good again. Just the 1 year that he sucked was with the Orioles.
He was absolutely dominant in 2019, won 14 games. Well, I shouldn't say absolutely dominant, but he still put up a 3.9 ERA, 14-game winner for Houston. I mean, obviously they were in the World Series that year, so there's obviously a bit of of help that the guys helping out get wins is what I'm trying to say.
They weren't in the World Series that year.
The
Cardinals, wasn't it? The Cardinals?
No, it was Nationals and Astros in 2019, I believe.
Oh, right, because the Cardinals beat the Cardinals beat.
I don't remember when the Cardinals were in the. That was back in like.
I keep thinking of the Astros. For some reason, I was thinking the Astros in the National League team. It was the Astros and the Nationals.
I believe so.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You're right because the Cardinals beat the Braves, and then the Nationals beat the Dodgers, and somebody beat the Dodgers, somebody beat the Braves, and the Nationals and Cardinals faced off in the.
So the Astros beat the Dodgers in 2017. I believe that's when the Astros
I'm talking about in the National League playoffs in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
The Nationals beat the Cardinals to get to the World Series.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For some reason, Astros were a National League team forever.
Yeah.
And every now and again, my mind slips back to that.
It was funny. I was reading something the other day. Someone put out a tweet, and they said, who is the most boring, good baseball team, like year after year? And someone was like, oh, it's the Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals are the most boring, good baseball team. Like
There's nothing boring about Paul Goldschmidt.
That's what I was about to say. Like,
and
why I would not be bored as a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals. Like this team is fun.
Tyler O'Neill's having a bad year, but that dude
put
up nearly a 7 WAR last year. Hit over 30 home runs. He'll get it going.
Yeah.
He's a physical freak of nature. Harrison Bader's having a nice bounce back season. Dylan Carlson's a good player. Paul Goldschmidt. I saw a stat that in his last 50 games going into yesterday was hitting like 388 with 16 home runs, and in his last 40 games was hitting over 400.
Wow.
Paul Goldschmidt's a freak.
Yeah,
I love Paul. When he started, he fell off for like a season. When I say he fell off, he hit like 260.
Yeah, it was his first season in St. Louis.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the hell happened to Paul Goldschmidt? And it's like, nothing happened to him. He hit over 300 in 2020.
Yeah.
He hit close to 300 last year, and he's just tearing the. He's going to be the starting first. He's got to be the front runner for MVP. He and Manny Machado.
Yeah, and Pete Alonso's been tearing the cover off the ball too. He's been really good. I think for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe this is because I pay attention to two teams that are in the American League and not necessarily as much the National League, but I never feel like Paul Goldschmidt gets a lot of
He's
attention.
never gotten a lot of love.
Yeah, he never does. Like this guy is having really one of the best seasons in baseball, and I haven't heard much about it at all.
If he was a shortstop, people would be gushing
well,
over him. He plays first base.
But I feel like Pete Alonso, of course, he's in New York, and Pete Alonso is going to get that attention because he plays in the biggest city in the country. But I still think Paul Goldschmidt deserves a little more credit than he's getting. I mean, he's putting together an unbelievable season in St. Louis.
He's having arguably his best season ever.
Yeah, he is, and he had some great seasons
and he's
in
like
Arizona.
35 years old.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It's amazing.
So let's get to the Orioles banter, and this is called O's Around the Dime. We're going to look at the Orioles by position here. We're going to discuss the current status, the future, and what the future means for some current roster guys. Yep. And we're going to start at the easiest of positions, and that's catcher, Adley Rutschman. He's looking like the bat.
No way, you don't say.
The bat's really come alive. The defense has been really good. The errant throws to second base are a little cause for concern for me, but when I say cause for concern, they make me raise an eyebrow. But
I think a few of them Rougned Odor should have had.
There was one of them that was a perfect throw on a short hop, and Chris Owings just completely missed his glove.
Owings did it too, yeah.
So they're set at catcher. First base, Ryan Mountcastle, through the first month or so of the season, had an expected batting average of like 321, and he was hitting 250.
Yep.
That bat is on fire.
Right.
He's hitting 270 now, team leading 12 home runs. He seems like he's doubling and homering every game these days.
Hey, right.
They're set at first base.
And you look at his baseball savant page, he's maxed out in a lot of those categories. One of the only ones that he's not doing so well in is chase rate, but that should not surprise anyone. That's what he does. But he's hitting the ball hard.
He was the AAA MVP while being, I think, the youngest player in the league. Back in 2019. 2019, AAA International League MVP. The guy's bat is special.
I will say
crazy power.
Oh, I totally agree. I will say first base is a very volatile position, and I think that it's hard to say that maybe when they win the world, their next World Series or their next competitive place, that Mountcastle still could be the guy, because I feel like that position just changes so often. But I think he will be.
Here's the thing. He's not blocking anybody in the system right now, right? Now, look, could they go out and sign a free agent first baseman this offseason?
Theoretically,
next offseason, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And put them there? Yeah, they could do that, and then Mountcastle moves to DH. But
with Mancini gone,
whether it's first base or DH, Mountcastle's going to be in the heart of your lineup for several years to come.
Yeah.
Right. Go over the second base, and it's been Roof Neto. I've been a little disappointed we aren't seeing more Richie Martin. I never thought I'd say that.
But somehow agree.
He was hitting well at AAA over 290. He had a 3-hit game last Saturday or Sunday? Sunday.
It was on Sunday, yeah.
3-hit game last Sunday, including 2 triples. And he's played twice since then. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You look at Roof Neto Door, I think he's a trade chip at best. The bat's really slowed down, although he does lead the team in triples, which confuses me considering he has a 35 speed in MLB The Show.
Right.
But he leads, and that triple to left center field the other night was a stand-up triple.
Right, and he got in there pretty quick.
So
I don't know.
So he has no future in Baltimore. He's going to be gone. I think Cesar Prieto could spend the bulk of the time at second base, starting as early as next year.
Yeah.
At shortstop, Jorge Mateo, I think that when the Orioles are competitive, that's a utility fielder for them. He's going to find his way into the lineup 3 to 5 times a week. He's going to pinch run a lot. He's going to be a defensive replacement maybe. But you look at and then you move over to third base, Tyler Nevin, Ramon Arias. You name it, they're not the guy.
So I want to say real quick before you move on from Mateo, I've actually thought about this a lot lately, because you're taking a guy who you're playing every single day right now, and then you're telling him that on the next competitive team you have to be a utility player.
You're not telling him that.
Well, you're not telling him that, but
he's telling us that.
He's telling us that, sure. But my point is that I feel like a guy like that who has the experience starting and might be the Orioles starting shortstop even next year, that it's a great possibility that he could be for a little bit until Gunnar Henderson or Jordan Westburg breaks up. I just don't know if that guy will stick around on your roster in a demoted role, if that makes sense. I'm not sure what my reasoning is there. For some reason, I don't know if that fits.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that you have to worry about with Mateo, and that you have to worry about with Arias. Mm-hmm. That they think they're starting guys.
Exactly what I'm saying.
And you can't. And if you're saying, well, but these guys, you can't. You're not going to go and be like, these guys are better than you. You're not going to say that to somebody.
But it shows who you start every day.
Right. And what these guys can do in the field, and what these guys can do with the bat is better than what Mateo can do with the bat. And then you look at the fact that Mateo leads the American League in defensive runs saved, and he's one of the best defensive shortstops in the game because of how many balls he gets to, right? But he still struggles on routine ground balls.
No, you're 100% right.
And he still struggles on the backhand.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I look at shortstop and third base, and I don't think there's any question that if they're not worried about service time, Jordan Westburg and Gunnar Henderson are starting shortstop and third baseman on opening day next year.
Yeah, outs above average is a largely range-based stat, and because you're basically saying how many outs can he get above the average player. And when you've got a guy who can run basically to any direction quicker than basically anybody else in baseball, he's going to make those outs, and he's going to catch balls that some other guys can't catch because he has that range. And again, that all revolves around his speed being the defining tool of Jorge Mateo. I think he's a good defender. I just think in today's game too, and I think you can see this based on the way teams draft as of late. They don't draft glove-first guys. You don't draft a guy guy because he's a good defender. You draft a guy because he can hit, generally over. I mean, that's why Jacob Berry is probably going to go in the top 10 picks, is because he's a guy who can hit.
Kenny Grenier was a supplemental first-round pick.
He was.
And he's he was, even back then, was way more known for his glove than his bat.
He was, but he also hit pretty well at Oregon State. I mean, he was a legitimate hitter, and that's in the Pac-12 that he put up some pretty good numbers. I think he hit like 330, 340.
He hit like 360.
Yeah, like
but that was the one season that he did it.
Right, exactly.
He wasn't that hitter before that year.
Right, and I don't think the Orioles looked at Caden Grenier and said, "Wow, his glove is the reason we're drafting him." They wanted the complete package, obviously. So I'm saying if a team is prioritizing a tool, I think it's always going to be the bat. So I think that's where Jorge Mateo's tenure in Baltimore will come to a close. Is if the Orioles start, really not if, but when the Orioles start valuing bat over glove.
Yeah, and you look at what Gunnar, Henderson, and Jordan Westburg are doing at the minor league level, right? And I have these numbers in here. Henderson last night went 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, a stolen base. He's slashing 344, 523, 594. That's an 11-17 OPS, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 11 walks to just the 5 strikeouts. Westburg last night, he went 2 for 5. Now the 3 times he got out were all strikeouts. 2 runs, a triple. He's slashing 412, 429, 882 with a 13-11 OPS, 3 doubles, 2 triples, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. In their first taste of AAA, what else do they? I'm not saying call them up tomorrow, right? But they've proven in now 2 weeks worth of games, they've proven that they can hit AAA pitching. That they've hit the ground running there. That these are guys who are going to be here sooner rather than later and will have a huge say in the direction of your ball club. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to realize that Gunnar, Henderson especially, even over Westburg. I know Westburg had a bit of a slower start this year, and I don't want to discount anything he's done so far in AAA, but I do think the bat is significantly better with Gunnar Henderson than it is with Jordan Westburg. And I think people are starting to see this, that Gunnar Henderson's not just a piece. He might be the piece. Gunnar Henderson might be the best bat on this team in 3 years. And
he's going to be the best player on this team.
Right. I think Gunnar Henderson's ceiling is astronomically high. And you look at what he's done in the minors, and basically everything's there to prove that. The guy walks. The guy hits for power. He hits for average. He gets on base. And he's played good enough defense, and depending on where he ends up, I think
he's looked really good at third base.
He has looked really good, and I think that's where the Orioles have kind of played him enough where I think that's kind of going to be a spot. And Jordan Westburg has definitely seen more time up the middle than over at third. So, look, if you have Westburg at short, Gunnar Henderson at third, you got Westburg, who's a good balance of glove and bat, and then Gunnar Henderson, who is an unbelievable bat and a good glove as well. You're in really good shape. I mean, really good shape.
Yeah, Gunnar Henderson is 9 months younger than the next youngest player in AAA. He hasn't faced a pitcher all year that he's been older than. 20 years old, slashing 344, 523, 594 with an 11-17 OPS at AAA.
Yeah.
He is a special talent. And that's the reason the Orioles drafted him in the second round.
Right.
It's the reason that they gave him over-slot money to forego his commitment to college, because he is special.
Yeah.
He's special. Yeah. I think he's going to be here before we know it, and we're going to be able to watch this guy. We're going to be able to watch this guy for 15 years in Baltimore. He's going to be one of those guys that they do not let get away.
I think just based on age, that Westburg might make his debut first. And even before those guys, maybe you even see a cameo from Joey Ortiz at some point, although he's been disappointing, to say the least.
If somebody makes a debut this year, it's probably going to be Westburg first.
That would be my guess.
But on opening day 2023, I'm willing to put a pretty large stake on the fact that I think they're both starting for the Orioles.
I wouldn't doubt
it. On opening day in 2023.
And you're looking at a lineup there, and I know you're going to talk about the outfield in a second, but you're looking at a lineup that's very, very few holes in it at that point. I mean, very, very few.
Yeah. And then let's get to the outfield, right? In left field, you've got Austin Hayes. I still, and I get it. They put Austin Hayes in the most difficult part of the field to play, wherever he goes. In Camden Yards, it's left field.
Yeah.
In Toronto and Kansas City, it was right field. Right? Cedric Mullins' arm does not play in center.
No, it doesn't.
And Stan said it. Fly balls to center field, guys are tagging from first base. Base hits up the middle with a guy on second, guys are scoring every time.
Yep.
love Cedric Mullins. If he's going to stay on this team, he's got to move to left field.
Yeah.
He's got to move to left field, and you've got to put Hayes in center.
And look, Mullins, that like you just mentioned, Camden Yards left field is the hardest part of the yard to play.
Mm-hmm.
And Mullins has more range than Hayes, and he's probably a better defensive outfielder than Hayes is. So putting him out there and moving Hayes' arm to center field, that works perfectly. I mean, I don't see any real downside of that. Now, I know I was on Hayes' Baseball Savant page a few minutes ago, and his defensive numbers, out above average, he's in the 6th percentile, which I was very surprised at. I think he passes the eye test. I think it's almost one of the cases where you can say that analytics are maybe a little overanalyzing what he's done, because I think he's been fine out there. I certainly don't see the issues that the analytics show that are there. I think you put him in center field, move Cedric to left. He can cover that wall, cover that area. He'll be great out there.
Yeah, and how is he only in the 6th percentile?
That I don't know.
He hasn't made any errors.
I'm going to go back to it and read off some more.
He catches everything hit to him. He's got an elite arm. He has had some bad throws this year. I've seen him make a couple of throws where I was like, that's not Austin Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to everyone, I guess,
right.
Even the best of them.
But
I'm going to pull up his Savant page. And he's also only in the 14th percentile of outfielder jump. So maybe that has something to do with it. But again, outs above average is largely range-based, so maybe that's has something to do with it. I'm going to pull up DRS real quick, and we'll analyze that while you're talking about Cedric.
Sure. No, so Cedric, look, he's coming alive a little bit more recently. He had 2 stolen bases last night. He's having a really solid month of June. I hope I can quickly look him up here, but I know that in June, in particular, he's having himself a very solid month. He had the base hit last night. He had the 2 stolen bases, excuse me. Average up to 250. When you consider the fact that it was down to about 230 a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And then when I look at what he's done in June this season, he is hitting, in June, 295, 338, 443 with 4 stolen bases, a home run, 6 doubles, 9 RBIs, and 10 runs scored. 18 for 61. He's having his best month. He's getting hotter with the temperature. Cedric Mullins is a guy. Look, if the Marlins want to give you King's ransom in pitching prospects for Cedric Mullins, I'm listening.
You can't say no.
Right, but
you can't.
Aside from that, this is a guy that should be playing left field. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Cedric Mullins should not be playing center field. He should be playing in left field.
Right.
He should be playing left field for you every day, batting leadoff and stealing. I mean, he's got 15 stolen bases right now.
Yeah.
The power's not where it was last year, but I don't really care about that. Get on base, steal bases, and play good defense. That's what my leadoff hitter is supposed to do. Yeah. I don't care if he hits 30 home runs. I don't care if he hits 10 home runs. Get on base and steal bases and play good defense. That's all I care about. And then in right field, Anthony Santander. Oh, average, Yeah. He hits home runs. He walks more this year, but that number's gone down over the last few weeks. He's a good defender in right field. He's got a good arm in right field. Mm-hmm. I don't hate Anthony Santander. I like Anthony Santander, but when I look at what the Orioles have coming up through their system, there's not really a spot for him. And I'd be much more excited to watch Kyle Stowers play. Because I think we've seen peak Anthony Santander.
Oh, I think we have as well. I think 2020 was the peak.
Yeah, I think we've seen peak Anthony Santander. Kyle Stowers, I think has potential to hit 270 with 35 home runs. So at the big league level.
I agree with you. I'm going to read off a few stats from the outfield. So Austin Hayes, 3+3 defensive runs saved. Good. Mm-hmm. Cedric Mullins at +4. Santander, -3. Okay. So that's why he gets taken out for Ryan McKenna. I mean, we know he's the weakest defender of the 3, but that's another thing against Santander that maybe Stowers could do a little better.
Stowers can play all 3 outfield positions, and you watched him make that really great catch in Game 3 of that series against Toronto. He's a good athlete. He hits for a ton of power. Strikeouts are going to come, but that's today's game anyway. If you get 260, 270 out of Kyle Stowers and he hits 30-plus home runs and plays right field for you, that's a good player. And that's before you even mention the fact that Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad are coming up through this minor league system.
Yep.
I don't look at guys like Robert Newstrom too much anymore. I like watching it. I like looking at his stats. He's having an okay year down at AAA. But when I look at outfielders, it's outfielders in the minor league system. It's Stowers, it's Kjerstad, and it's Cowser.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I'm focused on.
No, I mean, you have a right to be. I mean, those are the guys, and also John Rhodes has been really,
John Rhodes has had a nice
really
year
good so far
for Aberdeen, right?
Yeah, Aberdeen, and I'm not sure how Reed Trimble's done. But he was picked pretty highly last year, so I'll have to check on that. But yeah, Santander, his place in this lineup, I don't really know where it is anymore, and I think that's the
they
biggest.
continuously bat him third.
Yeah, it's too
and
high.
He's not a 3 hitter.
No.
He's not a 2 hitter. He's like a 6 hitter.
Yeah, he's like a 6 hitter
Or a 5 hitter.
I think maybe as Rutschman starts moving up more into like the 3 and 4 hole, where he'll probably spend the end of the season. Maybe they'll move Santander down if he's still here by August. But I can't imagine they're not going to trade this guy. But I think also people expect way too much. Like way.
Yeah,
he's not going to get that much.
You're not getting a lot.
No.
I mean, Jonathan VR put up better numbers than Anthony Santander ever has.
4.2 WAR season that season.
24 homers and 40 stolen bases, and they got Easton Lucas. And if you said who, exactly. Right? Then that moves you to Trey Mancini.
Mm-hmm.
And Trey Mancini's having a nice year. Hasn't had a nice week, but he's having a nice year.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like 2019 Trey.
He does. He sure does.
He looks like his exit velocity has been through the roof this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at Trey. There's not really a spot. There's not really not a spot. He could DH for you for a couple of years until maybe Kerstad's ready, right?
Yeah.
He's serviceable at best in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
He's just as good as Ryan Mountcastle at first base.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Mountcastle is a little more athletic, so he might
Definitely,
make a more flashy plays than Mancini. It's tough, man, because I don't know how great his trade market is. Ultimately, I think he is traded, but I don't discount the idea of the Orioles extending him for 3 seasons.
Yeah, this is the toughest one. Dan Connolly wrote the piece in the beginning of the year that said the writing's on the wall,
and I echoed that.
Right, and it's a ticking clock, and I think we both agreed that's the case. But he comes out this year and he's significantly better. He's just significantly better. And you look at the Orioles having one of the best offenses so far in June, and not a bad offense on the year. And I think
they had one of the best offenses in May.
Right. And I think Trey Mancini has been a big part of that. So now, when you're looking at the Orioles and you talk about how they're very close to being that competitive wild card team at some point, as close as next year, you go, do we now want to trade one of the better hitters in this lineup, even though we thought we were going to? If that makes sense.
Right.
Like, does it still make sense because we're better than we thought we were going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer to that is no. I think I was leaning towards yes, I would trade Mancini, but right now I'm not sure you can. I think he's just hitting too well, and the guy you're going to get for him is going to be. It's going to be, again, it's probably worse than Easton Lucas. It's probably going to be a lottery ticket that we don't know much about.
When you look at, and look, guys, the Orioles are 20 games ahead of their pace from last year. Mm-hmm. They didn't win their 28th game last year until their 85th game of the season.
Yeah.
Right? They're 65 games in. They're 28-37.
Yeah.
And are they 29?
29-37.
They're 29-37. Yeah. 66 games in. They won their 28th game in their 65th game this year. They won their 28th game in their 85th game last year. They're 20 games ahead of last year's pace. They're a 500 ball club since game 20 of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to trade Trey Mancini.
Right.
A guy who's he's the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah.
Right? And Adley Rutschman is coming quick, right? But everybody loves Trey Mancini.
Mm-hmm.
And your team's finally playing good baseball, and now you're going to trade your city's favorite player.
I agree. That's a really tough thing to do.
That's a tough look. And I wrote an article about it. I came out of my 2-year retirement from writing to write an article about why they should trade Trey Mancini. And now I'm sitting here 2 months later, and I'm like, you can't trade Trey Mancini.
I don't think you can stifle the offense. I think it's been too good. He fits too well into the offense that they have. Real quick, an Orioles move. They activated Joey Kriebel off the injured list and optioned Logan Gillespie to AAA. The lineup is out today. No Rutschman. So if you were looking to see Adley Rutschman today, he
had played 8 straight games.
Yeah,
he had played every day for 8 days. He deserves a breather because he's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah. There's some clear. It's a B lineup today. Noah Odor. You've got Richie Martin playing second base. You have.
It depends on how you feel about Odor.
I guess. that's a good point. You got Ryan McKenna in center field. You got Hayes leading off with no Mullins in the lineup. Hayes is DHing today. So Mancini in right field, which I hate, by the way.
Yeah.
I hate that. But anyway, Orioles lineup for today.
But you're going to see Hayes in center field, which is where I think he belongs anyway. Well,
you'll see McKenna in center field today.
It's McKenna
is
in center
DHing,
field.
yeah.
Hayes is DHing?
Hayes is DHing, yeah.
Is it Santander in left?
Santander's in left, yeah.
Santander in left. Look,
I'm
happy that I get the A lineup when I go to the game with my wife tomorrow, so that's cool. And I get an Orioles golf visor for one of the first 10,000 fans there. I'm really looking forward to that, hopefully. But yeah,
I was going to say this earlier, and I was actually
it's Bradish tonight.
Bradish on the mound. I was thinking about saving it for final thoughts. I'm going to say it now instead. Brandon Hyde, switching Austin Hayes and Santander, left field, right field, left field, right field, in like every lineup this year is not a good thing to do. I just don't like that. Like you gotta play a guy in one position and let him get used to it, right? Like I get a lot of times Hayes will go to right field when they're on the road and Santander will play left field. I just don't get it. Just keep him in the spot. Like I don't see how that benefits anyone.
I think they're both used to it at this point because the first year, his first season his first full season here in 2019, Santander played left field every day.
But
and then Hayes has played right field. Some of the best throws we've seen from Hayes have been from right field.
Sure.
He played center field in 2018 and 2019, and we really thought that he was going to be the guy in center field.
Yeah.
I think that these guys at the big league level, they've played enough of these positions that it's not a huge deal.
But why, though?
Because it's like what we said earlier. Hayes is playing right field when in the ballparks where right field is the most difficult part of the ballpark.
That's a good point.
He's playing left field at Camden Yards because it's the most difficult part of the ballpark. They obviously view Hayes as their best defensive outfielder that's not Cedric Mullins.
Right. Yeah.
So if there's a cavernous part of the ballpark, it's going to be Hayes there unless you're giving him a breather.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, and that's why he's there. So I think that's a good time to take our final break. Today's show is brought to you by Simply the Bets and Weekend at Bookie. Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're going to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning, 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook General Manager Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday, 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Steck and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook and Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen to PressBoxOnline.com/radio and watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. When we come back in, take to rake and final thoughts to close things out here on the Bat Around.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Are you ready, soccer fans? This summer, the English Premier League returns to Baltimore. Arsenal, Everton, square off in the Charm City match, July 16th, under the lights at M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Baltimore Ravens. This is your only opportunity to take in a Premier League match this summer in the Mid-Atlantic region. Individual and group tickets are on sale at BaltimoreRavens.com.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now, and it's our very first Salute to Coaches issue. On the cover, we recognize Ravens coach John Harbaugh ahead of his 15th season. Also inside, find tributes to Navy football coach Ken Niumatalolo, UMBC soccer coach Pete Caringi, Maryland soccer coach Sasho Sarabsky, and field hockey coach Missy Maharg, Mount St. Joe basketball coach Pat Clatchy, and Poly basketball coach Kendall Peace. We also honor recently retired Johns Hopkins lacrosse coach Janine Tucker and Calvert Hall baseball coach Lou Eckerl, the athletes whose whose lives these coaches have impacted, offering insights on what makes them special and why they've stood the test of time. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Pressbox's Glenn Clark Radio is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Or listen to PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts, because you never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Orioles prospects Heston Kjerstad and Jordan Westburg, as well as Orioles assistant GM Eve Rosenbaum and former Orioles catcher Caleb Joseph. Find those interviews and more in the Glenn Clark Weekend Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com.
Very good, Zach. Very good. We're going to be jumping right in here to the...
We just broke a tradition, by the way. We didn't talk about the GCR music that just played.
I know. I was thinking about it. I was like,
too bad.
It's old hat. It's old hat.
Too bad.
It is now time for everybody's favorite Take the Rake, which is brought to you today by the best place to be for the playoffs and all the big upcoming events, and that is the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. You can bet on every sport with 61 self-service kiosks open 24/7 and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. Big crowds are expected this weekend at Live Casino and Hotel with Dave Chappelle performing in the hall at Live. So the FanDuel Sportsbook is going to have lots of foot traffic, folks. So if you're looking to come out to watch and bet on the U.S. Open today or tomorrow, or on Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, make sure you reserve your spot by emailing events@socialmd.com. Events at sportssocialmd.com right now. Take the Rake. Last week, I took Austin Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who won the week before. I do know.
I believe it was Austin Hayes, I want to say.
Yeah, you won. That's right.
With Austin Hayes,
yeah,
I think.
You won. So you took Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini played 4 games. He went 2 for 13 with 9 strikeouts. He did not win.
No.
I took Austin Hayes. He went 7 for 29, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs, 6 strikeouts, 0 walks. Bob Phelan took Adley Rutschman. 9 for 26, 4 doubles, a home run, 4 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 3 walks, 3 Ks. It was a lot closer than you would think because Hayes put up the power numbers and more RBIs.
Yep.
But Adley Rutschman outslugged him by just a little bit more because he had the 4 doubles and the home run. So Adley Rutschman wins for Bob Phelan. That is the guest's second win of the year, along with Ben McDonald. We took Cedric Mullins about 5-6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have a guest today, so I'm going to pick first because I took Austin Hayes, and he would have won. I'm going with the hot hand. I'm going Ryan Mountcastle.
Yeah.
He is turning into that special player that we thought that he might be. Ryan Mountcastle is my pick for Take to Rake.
You know, I love doing Take to Rake now as opposed to, even a year ago or a little bit more than that because we have choices. We have lots of choices. Adley Rutschman won this week. I feel like Rutschman, even though he's not playing today, has been hitting the ball well and hitting the ball hard. So Adley Rutschman is my pick this week.
That's a solid pick. It's a solid pick. For final thoughts, my final thought is this. I've seen a lot of people, and most people trust in Mike Elias, right? And most people are seeing what's going on with this team.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many people saying, Elias doesn't have a plan. This guy's never done this before, and you're giving him all the benefit of the doubt, and he doesn't have a plan. Shut up. Just shut up. Look at what's happening with this team right now.
Yeah.
Look at the players that are here. Look at what's happening with the bullpen. And these are all guys that Mike Elias brought in.
Yeah.
Right? You look at the centerpiece of your franchise, Adley Rutschman, in the back coming on, and just how special is that, how much his pitchers love throwing to him and love playing with him in general, right? You look at that excitement he had at the end of the game last night. Just looked like a kid that just won the World Series, right? Or called a no-hitter for a 1-0 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays. And then you look at what's happening in the minor leagues. Gunnar Henderson, drafted in Mike Elias' first draft, youngest player in AAA, and he's torching the ball. Jordan Westburg, second first-round pick of Mike Elias' second draft. Just tearing the cover off the ball at AAA. You look at what's happening in this minor league system. You look at what's happening at the big league level. And the fact that the Orioles are playing .500 ball the last 46 games. And they're only going to continue to get better. I don't want to hear Mike Elias doesn't have a plan because you're seeing it unfold right before your eyes. This team, and for those who are saying, I think the Orioles will be in contention in 2025. You're not paying attention. They're gonna be good really soon. They're good now. They're good now. They're not great. They're not the class of the division. They're still a last place team, but they're good now. Any opposing manager will tell you this team is not a cakewalk.
Right.
And they're 10-9 against Toronto, Boston, and Tampa Bay this year. 4-9 against the Yankees. But they're 14-18 against the AL East this year after going 20-56 against the division last year. This is a good baseball team that's only going to get better. And if you think Mike Elias doesn't have a plan, you're just not paying attention. And it's a tired, lazy take now, and I don't want to hear it anymore. Watch the games, pay attention, because this team's becoming something special right before your eyes.
So I guess my final thought kind of has a little bit to do with yours. I want to finish up my thoughts on the trade deadline. And maybe mine will be a little bit more negative than yours will be. But I want to say, while everything you said is true, and I agree with that, I still, if I'm the Orioles, look at the trade deadline, and I look at it as you should probably... Well, not probably, but you should not buy. You're not buying.
No, and I don't think they should buy.
And
either.
I don't think anybody's saying that realizes still what this team is, because they're good. They're getting better, but they're not yet competing for the playoffs. And I think you should only buy when you really have a realistic chance to compete for the playoffs. But I also think, and this is something I didn't say earlier, that I don't know necessarily how much you should sell. I don't know if you get a great offer for Cedric Mullins, sure. If you get a great offer for Santander, definitely take that one. But I don't think the Orioles should actively be looking to sell off guys. They shouldn't be, calling around. They shouldn't be taking calls on some of the bigger players on their team because, they can take the calls, but they shouldn't be seriously considering a lot of it because I think the team is in a drastically different spot than it has been in a few past years. And I do even think that trading a guy like Cedric Mullins almost sends a weird message to the fan base because you are getting a lot better recently. And if you were to trade a guy like that and sell him off, it almost looks like you're still back in 2019. And I do think that the Orioles need to tread carefully there in sending the right message to the fans at the trade deadline and not selling.
And people have been talking about trading Jorge Lopez. Why?
Right, that's a great example. Right,
Why?
that would send a bad message, right?
He's becoming an elite closer.
He is.
Why would you trade Jorge Lopez?
Right.
Why? He's under team.
Exactly.
He's under team control. He's killing it. He might be your lone all-star this year.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you trade Jorge Lopez
well,
when your window is starting to open?
That's exactly my point. I think it sends the wrong message, and it takes you backwards, frankly, if you do that. Then you're looking for your closer again. So I do think that the Orioles, while you can sell guys like Santander, don't make any moves like a one for Jorge Lopez or someone more significant like Cedric Mullins that would really, I think, send the wrong message and maybe alienate a few people from the team.
The only guy I think that should be traded... two guys. Odor, three guys. Odor, Lyles, Santander. And Lyles I'm on the fence with.
I would
because
keep
I think they signed him to do exactly what he's doing so
right.
they can trade him, but you don't have anybody to replace him.
I was going to say, they don't have anyone to replace him, so I would 100% keep Lyles from where you are right now.
And you have the option for him for next year, right? So, realistically, Odor and Santander are the only two guys I'm trading.
Yeah.
And I'm only trading Odor if I have somebody that I know can take his place. Right? Santander, I know we have somebody that can take his place.
Definitely.
With Odor, and he's hitting 207, right? It's not like Odor is tearing the cover off the ball. But he's come up with some big hits. His defense has gotten better. And he's a big-time clubhouse guy. His teammates love him. And that's good for morale around your clubhouse. The only way that I trade Odor is if Richie Martin proves that you have to have him on the field every day. Right? So, guys, really fun. I was really excited for the show today. I was really excited for this show just because the Orioles are playing so well, and there's so much to talk about. Mountcastle's tearing the cover off the ball. Rutschman's bat's gotten going. They're playing good teams and beating them. It's a fun time in Baltimore. And look, there's going to be some bumps in the road. They're going to have another little stretch, right? But they're on a 46-game stretch where they played 500 baseball. They're 13-13 since Adley Rutschman came up. They have an opportunity with a win today or tomorrow to take their second consecutive series against the Tampa Bay Rays. You look at their series, if you take out the Yankees, they haven't lost a series to the AL East since the first series of the year. They are a significantly better baseball team. It's just been so much fun to watch because I have a reason to watch. It's a fun team.
Right.
This isn't last year, where at this point in the year, it's like, oh, my God, training camp. Please get me to training camp. And I'm excited for the Ravens. I really am. I think they have a really good team this year.
I do.
But the Orioles are giving me reason to not care so much about football right now. And I think that's so awesome. And honestly, if you're paying attention, like I said in my final thought, it's only going to get better. It's only up from here. It's so exciting right now to be an Orioles fan. And if you look at what we've been through the last 5 years, have we been able to say that until now? Like,
no, not often.
And this is just like the coolest thing is
seeing it all come to fruition,
enjoying baseball, and especially because we've stuck through it. Watching the Orioles win in 2012 after 14 straight years where I never left, where I watched every game, and I never left. Now watching them go through these last 6 losing seasons, and I've watched every game. And to see them playing their best baseball in a long time now, it feels so good, man. And I can only imagine how much better it's going to feel when they get back to where they were from 2012 to 2016.
Definitely.
All right. You can tell how much I love the Orioles, but... All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Thanks, as always, to Rich Dubroff, who's become a great friend of the show. I love talking to him these days. And thanks to Zach for putting on a good show with me, as always, and producing a really good show. Guys, I can't wait to put together next week.